Good evening, everyone. Good evening, West Orange. Thank you for joining us on our July 9th council meeting. As has been advertised, the meeting does not have a conference agenda. We are starting our regular meeting at 6:30. We do have some technical difficulties. As you may have heard, there have been some challenges with our Zoom. The computer was replaced today. We've not had enough time to fully test it, so we're hoping for the best. If for any reason the Zoom link fails, we will try to reestablish it. In the event that we're not able to, this meeting will also still be audio recorded. So there still will be a public record that will be posted later, even if it does not include the video. Madam Clerk.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on November 21st, 2023, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on November 30th, 2023. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
Present.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
Present.
Councilwoman Williams?
Present.
Council President Rutherford.
Here.
Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The council is now in their public meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are going to begin, as always, with public comment. Seeing that there are just a few folks in the gallery tonight, we may choose to reopen public comment later. But right now, we're going to open public comment. First, we'll hear from Mr. Fagan and then Mr. Puglisi, and then we'll open it to the public.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to just repeat what you said at the beginning of the meeting, that unexpectedly, the computer that controls the Zoom meeting died this afternoon and was subsequently replaced by IT. And everything seems to be working fine, but in the event that we lose the Zoom feed, it's not something that we could troubleshoot or correct during the course of the meeting. If we should lose the Zoom feed, I will do my best to try to reestablish contact, and I would instruct members of the public to try logging in again on the existing link. That being said, I'd like to, this past July 4th, as you may have heard, we had an Independence Day celebration. It was at 10 Rooney Circle, and in conversation with Director Kehoe, it was a success in terms of the amount of people, the food trucks that showed up there. It was a fun day full of family activities. Also, as a repeat from an announcement at the last meeting, but there still seems to be a problem with bears appearing. And just want to remind the public again to be aware of that. Bears are native to the area, although not usually sighted. But in the event, just be aware that there may be bears in the area. Also, a reminder that senior transportation to the library is available Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. This number is on the website. Please call to arrange for transportation to the library. We have Downtown Thursdays coming up in the series this Thursday, Franklin and Main Streets, 5 to 8 p.m. Family fun. All events are free. So come on out and support the Downtown Alliance. We have Latin Night coming up on July 13th at the high school. This flyer is on the website. Also that's Saturday, July 13th, from 5 to 9 p.m. Earlier in that day, there is power walk at the Orange South Mountain Reservation around, I don't know if it's still called the Orange Reservoir, but that's what I usually refer to it as. There is a $25 registration fee, and you can find out more information at empowerthevillage.org. If anybody needs this flyer, please email me, jfagan@westorange.org, and I'd be glad to provide you with additional information. We seem to be getting a lot of calls on our report of concern line about outages concerning streetlights. And as much as we appreciate the public's attention to this matter, that this is something that they can call PSE&G directly. The township has no control over replacing streetlights. But of course, you have to provide a poll number, and the number is 800-436-PSE&G. Anyone who reports it to us, we subsequently ask them to report it to this phone number. This Thursday, we have Mayor McCartney's open office hours coming up. Once again, no appointment is ever necessary. Just a quick reminder about the travel alert, the ongoing work. I seen a post on Facebook the other day. Someone wanted to know what was going on in Eagle Rock Avenue, and someone pointed out, and actually not only pointed it out, but used this graphic that to alert the individual about the overnight work going on. That's going to be going on through the end of the summer to August 30th. We also have performances coming up at OzPAC, Sister Act from July 12th to the 20th, and the Adams Family on July 25th. This information and other information about OzPAC is online. Of course, with the temperature, the heat wave that we're currently experiencing, the council chambers is a cooling location and is open during regular business hours, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Once again, know the symptoms of heat-related illnesses: dizziness, nausea or vomiting, heavy sweating, confusion, high body temperature. The important thing is to stay hydrated. And I thought it would be appropriate in this hot weather just to remind everyone that in a few short months that this will be the message: snow expected. So just remember, that in the winter time, yes, summer is uncomfortable, but cold is painful. And it's a good thing that we don't have snow now, because trying to shovel snow in this heat wave would be a very strenuous task. So I just want to remind everyone about that. Apparently no one got my joke, but that's okay. I'm used to that. I just want to also say kind of a humorous attempt. We got your back in terms of providing information at westorange.org. If you have any questions about anything, you can contact me or call me in the office, and I'll be glad to direct you to where the information is. Finally, on our website, westorange.org, the report of concern that I talked about earlier, if you go to our website, it's not working. My hyperlink is not working. It worked in testing, but at the bottom of the website is this report of concern. You click on that, it will take you to a form. You can fill out that form, indicating what the nature of the problem is, and someone is usually very quick to respond. And I believe that's it, Council President. My slides are not advancing, but I've said enough for the evening. And if anyone has any, wants to see anything here, as I mentioned, westorange.org is the website, and you could always contact me at jfagan@westorange.org, and I'd be glad to assist you to find out the information. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Mr. Puglisi?
Good evening, Anthony Puglisi, representing County Executive Joe DiVincenzo. I just want to reiterate that our summer concert series is ongoing. We just completed our 3 fireworks spectaculars last week before the 4th of July, and the concert schedule continues until the end of August. Also at the South Mountain Reservation, the South Mountain Recreation Complex is our, this month is Wellness on the Waterfront, which celebrates Parks and Recreation Month. I did talk about those activities last time I was here. At Turtleback Zoo on Wednesdays and Thursday evenings in July and August, we have extended hours until 8 p.m. And then also at the zoo on Wednesdays, we have movies that begin at 6 p.m. All that concert schedule, the Wellness on the Waterfront schedule, and the movie schedule are on our website, which is EssexCountyNJ.org. And finally, another thing I mentioned last time was the Butterfly Tent Safari at our Environmental Center in Roseland. That begins this weekend and continues for 2 weeks. All information is on the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Puglisi. We will now open up public comment for those that are in the gallery. As usual, we will not have public comment from those attending via Zoom. The microphone will be open. You don't need to be called up. As the microphone is available, just bring yourself to the mic and give us your name and address before you begin your comments. The microphone is now yours. You don't need to come up, I'm not gonna call individuals. You can just come on up.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry.
It's okay.
Rodolfo Rodriguez, 22 Ashwood Terrace. First of all, I don't know, for a long time, I've been wanting to say this. I've never, ever come to a council meeting to complain or anything like that. Because, that's not me, and I'm not here to complain. On the opposite. I was thinking about all of you guys, including Mayor Susan McCartney. It's amazing that you stay here overnight, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, doing all the work you do and getting paid nothing. That's what I wanted to say public. This is a sacrifice, like volunteer community work. And I don't think anybody comes stand here to say thank you. And I do think that every time I call here, I call the chief, call Michael, call everybody respond. And it's amazing. Just have to say that. It's amazing that all these years, people complain about the council, the mayor, and all that, but do anybody stop to think how much money you guys get paid? Anybody stop to think about how much money you guys get paid? I don't think so. I wonder if anybody cares and they want to know. Because this is really amazing, all the work that a bunch of you do and been doing over all these years, just for the community of West Orange. Anyway, as we have the Latin night, and this weekend, Saturday, I wanted to say ahead of time, thank you to Township of West Orange, the police department, which is always there. Thank you, Chief. Michael, and all of you council for the support. So this Saturday, and the school system also, the school system is being amazing. This Saturday, starting at 5, we have the Latin night. It's completely free at the high school football field. We have a couple of big shots visitors in town, like somebody to represent the President of Mexico, the Council of Mexico, and somebody representing Bukele, the President of Salvador, the Council of Salvador. So those two, they will be in town visiting us. Remember, at one point, I brought President here at front of Town Hall. So it would be very nice if all of you come by, say hello, talk to people, interact, because this is one of the many things that we do for the Hispanic and the community in general of West Orange. And, people need to know, like, who's in charge in town, who does what. and all that, and a lot of people in the streets keep asking me, where do I go? What do I do? You know, all these little things. So, I do appreciate all the help and the support that all of you have been doing, to make sure that this thing continue to happen year after year. And this Saturday, we have live music, salsa, classes for free, like, it's only like 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, people can learn how to, you know. And then we have the band, live band, salsa. And, we have a lot of things going on, dances, so, vendors, food trucks, and, it's going to be beautiful. So I hope to see all of you, and thank you again for all your support and all you do for the Township of West Orange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, everybody. Council members, thank you for having public comment and opening this up for us to all come and talk to you and share our thoughts. I have a couple of things.
Just your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jonathan Redwine, and I live at 10 Cobain Terrace.
Thank you.
Thank you. As the chair of the Sustainability Committee, I'm happy to see the couple of items related to EVs on the agenda. I'm hopeful that those will sail through. It looks like there are some grants that we're applying for and some electric vehicles that we'd like to incorporate into the fleet. So I'm looking forward to updating my fleet inventory that we worked on in our committee last fall. Then next, the two budget items on the agenda. I have a couple of questions just about the budget and the process that I hope that you can answer. The items are 22,863-24 and 211-24. My questions are, do we have budget projections that go out 3 and 5 years into the future? And if we do, where can I see those materials? How have budgets in recent years compared with those projections, if we've been doing those projections? And then finally, this might be the most important one. Is there a process to compare spending that was done in a particular year with the original budget that was passed for that year? And where can I find those materials? So I appreciate you addressing those questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else in chambers wish to address the council? All right, seeing none. We're going to suspend public comment. We may or may not reopen it. Going to call my colleagues to respond. Councilwoman Williams, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, West Orange. Thank you, Mr. Fagan, Mr. Puglisi, for your updated announcements. I look forward to the Hispanic Foundation's Latin Night. And as far as the financial questions, Mr. Gross is here and can answer those directly. Thank you. Also just wanted to highlight the Empower the Village event on Saturday morning. I am an ambassador for that organization, and that is a 501c3 organization that looks to advance the mental health and wellness, economic empowerment for people of color. It is an organization that has all of their credentials on their website, but most especially important to me is their mental health and wellness advocacy, as it is in alignment with my foundation for suicide prevention as well. Also wanted to highlight some additional upcoming events here on Friday. We have an organization that will be having their financial literacy event on Friday. And so if you are interested in your children, your younger children, middle-aged children, elementary school children, and learning and participating in financial literacy, please feel free to stop by on Friday evening at 6 o'clock for their final presentation and award ceremony. Don't think that there have been too many other liaison instances that I want to bring to the table. Certainly when we were here last, we talked, about the upcoming events. The Arts Council is having a, artist call for their, upcoming exhibit. And that will be a Latin, featured exhibit. So if you have any interest in, or a Latin or Latinx artist, please reach out to our Arts Council, for additional information. Our, Historic Preservation Commission has met, but not a lot of hot topics going on, just business as usual. But their information is on the website. If there's anyone interested in understanding more about historic designations, feel free to reach out to the department. Thank you so very much. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Scarpa.
Great, thanks. Rodolfo, thank you so much for coming and for all your kind words. I know that you know how hard we work. And it's not about money, as I think I've said before. This is a labor of love, and we all are up here because we want our township and our residents in our township to all be the best that they can be. And that's why we're here. I want to assure you, I will be at Latin Night. When I lived in Manhattan, I was an avid ballroom dancer. And tango, cha-cha, and salsa are my favorites, so I can't wait, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. In terms of the Mr. Redwine's questions, we'll let Mr. Gross answer those. Mr. Gross, do you want to do that now or
At the end.
At the end? Okay, so he'll take that one. And in terms of our committee events, everybody knows that OSPAC is in full swing. I want to thank Laura Van Dyke and Welia, because again, we are getting the party bus for the seniors to OSPAC this summer, once again, for Sister Act. So any seniors who are interested in joining us, please reach out to Laura Van Dyke, or you can reach out to me as well, and we'll tell you about transportation. And that's about it.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to those of you in our council chambers and those of you watching from Zoom for chiming in. I really want to thank Deputy Mayor Rodolfo Rodriguez for his really kind words. You know, it's not often you do hear a thank you, so you know it's appreciated. It's a labor of love. It's not about the money. You know, $1,000 stipend, most of us invest it right back into the community, different organizations. We love our town and we're here to serve, right? So we appreciate you and thank you for what you do as Deputy Mayor. I am excited about Latin Night. I will be there in spirit. I'll be on vacation. I'm going away. So just imagine me with my two left feet dancing, and I hope it's a wonderful, fun event. Mr. Redwine, thank you so much for your comments. I will defer to our CFO to answer those questions for you. And that concludes my response to public comment.
Thank you, Councilwoman Castellino.
Thank you, Council President, and welcome everyone. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July extended weekend. And I want to thank Mr. Keogh and Candy Myrick and the rest of the recreation team for putting on an outstanding day up at by the town library this year. As we all know, we pivoted our 4th of July event to celebrate Independence Day. And was really happy to hear. Unfortunately, I was away on vacation. All my children's calendars lined up for last week, so we went for it. I usually hate to miss that event, but I have to say, so many years ago, we had the races and we reinvented that going up to the high school. And now this year it, was pivoted into another event. And I want to thank them for their efforts in putting on a really great day for a lot of residents who were in town that day. So thank you to that team and to all Public Works and Police and Fire for all their efforts on the 4th. Downtown Thursdays, our downtown team has been busy. They had their first one right before the 4th broke. And that was a great event over down here in the valley. And as Mr. Fagan said, we'll be at Torrey Corner this week. So we're really excited about that. So come on down, look at the downtown website and see all the dates from here on in for the next 6 weeks. There will be a Thursday night throughout our downtown, and we're really excited with this year's event. So please come on down to downtown West Orange to catch your energy. Mr. Puglisi, always great events with the county. Excited about the butterfly station and looking forward to bringing my little granddaughter there. And thank you for your help. As always, the county's always been such a great partner with downtown. We applied for another marketing grant and hopefully we'll receive it. And the county's support and giving us this letter of support. I can't tell you how much we appreciate your quick turnaround time and for being a great community partner that we're able to receive these grants because of that. And Rodolfo, our mayor, deputy mayor, I thank you for all your time and support. I know it'll be a great event Saturday night. I look forward. I didn't know I could get dance lessons for 15 minutes, so we'll see how I do there. I won't trip over my feet, but thank you. It's going to be exciting. I know you've been waiting for this for a long time, trying to figure out the right place to have it, and I think you landed well at the high school. So I look forward to a good time. And Mr. Redwine, thank you for coming down and asking those great questions about our budget. I know Mr. Gross is going to respond. I don't recall a 3-year projection that we've been given. However, each department I know has a 5-year strategic plan, and we've had asked them that at our individual budget hearings. Also on the budget we receive, each category, we could see what was actually budgeted last year and what was actually spent. So we do have that information on the budget version that we're looking at. I assume the committee would have received the same. So I'll let Mr. Gross respond to that. And that is it. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome, Councilwoman. I want to echo your sentiments regarding the 4th of July. Mr. Keough, all of our the DPW, police, fire, emergency responders, Parks and Rec. I think I saw you there too, Joe. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember now.
There are many who are looking into it, like myself. I pay
So the band was excellent. So a good time was had by all. Considering we had to cancel the fireworks, I thought what we did all day was a good replacement. No one wanted to forego the fireworks, but we are glad with what happened. So I want to thank everybody involved. And certainly Mr. Keough and his team. Edwin too, I know they were all working, all day. It was super hot too, so I want to thank all of them. With regard to the comments, again, Mr. Rodriguez, we do thank you, and I expect you'll have a good representation from your elected officials on Saturday night. I want to thank Mr. Puglisi and Mr. Fagan for their timely information. The 3 questions asked by Mr. Redwine, I will tell you the answer to the first one, but I'm certainly happy to hear Mr. Gross's response. We do not have projections for 3 to 5 years, at least not that I've seen. I've asked for them. I've asked for a debt plan. We just don't have it. So I've stopped asking because we're not going to get it. But to your other 2 questions, one of my colleagues, at least one of my colleagues answered with regard to the actual and projected figures for, prior years. I'll let Mr. Gross address the first 2, which were the projections for 3 to 5 and how have we performed in any particular year versus projections. And I'll just read the third one. How do we compare the actual versus the projected budget? Mr. Gross, if you would answer those questions for us.
Sure. Council President, right, there are no multiple year projections that we publish. That's not to say that I don't look at and have work product that I use to look forward into the future. Mr. Wedwine, I'm certainly happy to sit down and share information with you, if you like. In terms of comparing the actuals to, the actuals to the budget. We publish with the budget, there are the actuals that are the year to date or the period to date, when that's published, and also, the, annual audit, when a year is audited, also contains complete figures for that year and the year previous. So that's available, and those are available on our website online.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. I think that completes our public comment. Few folks have come in late. If you'd like to address now, you can. If not, we're going to close public comment for the night. You're invited to the microphone.
Thank you, Council President. I appreciate that. I just wanted to speak with the council briefly about.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Michaela Bennett at Old Indian Road.
Thank you.
I just wanted to address two issues with the council. The first is this idea that there's some huge emergency and we need to rush and make sure that we get to a carting contract as soon as possible. I mean, there's a lot of words for that. Trash, rubbish, garbage. Just stop. At some point, just stop. The history of trash in this community, for those who don't know, is the history of bid rigging. The original contract for trash was written in such a way that natural gas was required for the vehicles, the trash trucks. And the reason for that is because the one company that had natural gas was the company that Mayor McCartney and former Mayor Parisi's brothers worked for. That company, if you look at the materials you've received and you don't vote in favor of carting, is going to be the company that's preferred. Roselle or Roselli is also owned by Suburban. There was a company that bid on everything but carting, and that company was disqualified. But that company came in $1 million lower. Make them go back and RFP correctly so that they're not directing to one company. Mr. DeFeo spoke about a recycling center. That recycling center that was just built, this dramatic, great, wonderful recycling center that he told you all about, is owned by the same people that own that carting company. It's easy to figure this stuff out. It's really easy to find this. I mean, use the Google. That's number one. Number two, you have on the agenda approving a contract for Dr. Kelly. I went to Dr. Kelly's website. Dr. Kelly does not talk about doing cancer screening. He talks about doing sports physicals. He has a lot of solid experience. I think there's something about the DOT. That's not cancer screening for firefighters, first responders, put their lives on the line and deserve to have cancer screening because they are at a much greater risk of having cancer in the future because of their job hazards. The company that you are asked to approve, I also went online. They're all over New Jersey doing this type of cancer screening. I would just caution you that when individuals resort to bullying and thuggish tactics to try to convince you to do something, it's a defensive posture because they know that what they're doing is wrong. So I would just encourage you to, of course, approve a vendor that firefighters can utilize to be screened for job hazards. But I would caution you from approving an individual who has the language at the bottom of the resolution that clearly states that there's some sort of potential conflict of interest. Thank you.
Hi, Jen Hardell, 76 Ashland. I'm here tonight to hopefully try and get a little bit of clarity on when the applications process is going to go live to start accepting applications for cultivation and manufacturing. It's been over 2 months since the last meeting where everybody voted, I think, to allow that process to move forward. So I've been patiently waiting, but I haven't heard anything. I've made a lot of phone calls and I'm just trying to get some kind of confirmation or timeline. If anyone can assist with that tonight, I'd greatly appreciate it. So thank you.
Good evening, Joe Krakowiak, Grandview Avenue. I have 4 or 5 topics tonight. Resolution 207 is a contract for professional services, quote, including statutory services such as certified municipal finance officer, registered municipal clerk, certified tax collector, and quote, et cetera, through year end. The contract is not to exceed $45,000. The RFQ lists 2 candidates. Chris Battaglia, whose resume says he currently holds 5 municipal CFO positions, including at South Orange, Essex Fells, and Caldwell. The other candidate listed is Andrea Tarantula, the current certified tax collector at Bogota and listed as responsible for, quote, general tax functions, end quote, at West Orange since March 2021. Please explain the additional value you believe that these 2 people will provide for our money, since they appear to be quite busy already. Is the main goal of this contract to meet state certification registration requirements for key functions with minimal involvement in the actual work? Second, Resolution 208, Bryan Electric, Inc., purchase of 2 electric transport vans. The resolution specifies 2 charging stations, installation, maintenance, and software updates for 5 years for more than $225,000. It does not specify the purchase of 2 vans. So which is correct, the title of the resolution, which specifies the purchase of 2 vans, or the text of the resolution? This should be clarified before a council vote. What is the reason the proposed contract was not included on the agenda as an exhibit, the usual practice? I think that would have been helpful. Third, Resolution 209, a contract to provide accounting, regulatory basis, financial statements, and related services. The vendor is PKF O'Connor Davies. The resolution lists no spending limits. Isn't this the firm that is our longtime independent auditor? Is the administration proposing to get accounting services from the same firm that provides our independent audit of that accounting? Isn't that at least the appearance of a potential conflict of interest? If this is correct, council should avoid even the appearance of the conflict by voting down the contract and seeking multiple vendors. Ordinance 2852, second revised ordinance, government cannabis businesses. The online copy of this proposed ordinance does not identify the proposed changes, typically done with a so-called red line version that highlights all changes. It makes it much easier for someone to review. I recommend the council require red line versions for council members and the public for any changes to existing or proposed ordinances and resolutions as a policy. I mentioned the proposed garbage contract to request consideration of the concerns of many residents. Their physical, financial, and infrastructure limits in a town with many older residents and areas of dense housing and limited storage. The proposal requires municipal borrowing to buy the containers. So I went to the town website to see what our issued and authorized debt is to assess the potential impact. The state required 2022 annual debt statement dated January 2023 is still there, listing debt of $149.8 million. But the 2023 ADS, which should have been on the website for the past 5 months, is not there. Why isn't it posted? More importantly, does anyone on the council know what our issued and authorized debt is as of the end of last year or even today? How can you make budgeting and borrowing decisions without knowing how much we owe? The proposed budget shows the impact of the exploding debt in recent years. Debt service, which is what we pay back, is exploding by nearly 24% this year, up more than $2.2 million in a single year to $11.6 million. Our debt service, basically the town's credit card, is projected at nearly 12% of our budget. This is staggering and frightening. Nearly 12% of our budget is not buying us anything. It's paying back past spending. This is a huge problem that for the 10 years that I was on the council, I urged the council administration repeatedly to manage much better. Yet it's getting worse and worse. We have to stop borrowing so much and pay off that debt as fast as possible. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address council? Now is your last opportunity. Seeing none, public comment is now closed. To my colleagues, would you like to respond to additional? Or do you want to just have the administration read these questions and have them respond?
So here towards the
administration.
Yeah, I would like to respond.
Sure. We'll start in alphabetical order. I'm going to hold my comments for the administration, but Councilman McEvermichael.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I would like to thank first Ms. Bennett for coming out here tonight and speaking. I agree. I don't think we should have the carts right now. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. And you know, I also do agree with your point, and this is something I was gonna ask the administration later on today when we discuss garbage. But I think that we should reissue the RFP, especially based on Ms. Bennett's what she said here tonight. It does make sense, you know, if they were disqualified.
Can't do it.
Why?
It's illegal. The DCA will come down on us. Cannot, we have awarded a bid. Somebody won it. I don't care which option you pick. You can pick any option you want, but we can't say, well, we're gonna throw it out and go back out.
No, but because we're not going with the carting option this year, which I think the majority of us
Pick option one.
agree to, why wouldn't we be able to then put out a new RFQ or reinstate their bid?
So
Instead of
before we,
disqualifying.
let me jump in for a second.
That's my
So
question.
I think there is something legally that governs, because we've thrown out all the responses to a bid before and rebid. So I don't know what the trigger is for that. I don't know if you can address that, or if Mr. Gingaro is better situated to address it. But I know that there is a legal standard, because we've done it before when we throw out all the responses and rebid. Can we speak
And
to that?
it's $1 million less, so that's a lot of money.
But one of the options, option one, is to just continue doing what we've been doing for the last 100 years.
Mhm.
So if that's what you're looking for, pick option one. I don't care what you do, Frank. I mean,
So let me ask you a follow-up question, if you don't mind, Councilwoman. Is that
I
okay?
just want to know, it's $1 million less. Why can't we reinstate their?
So we all received an email from Mr. DeBovi that spoke to the same thing. And the question that I have is, it's two questions here. One is, are we able legally, and Mr. Gingaro may need to weigh in, but are we able legally to throw out all of the responses and reopen the bid? That's the first one. The second question is something that we've discussed earlier in council meetings, particularly with regard to garbage, which is we've already extended past the end of the prior contract, where our current provider is providing the service based on the last contract numbers. And the concern was raised by the administration that if we did not award anyone the contract and rebid, we would be forcing the current contractor to honor the prior contract's price when their current response to this bid was higher. So essentially, we're getting them to do the same job for less than what they would normally charge. So those are the two questions. One, are we legally able to get rid of all of the responses and start over? And then two, if we did, what is the impact to our current contract and situation?
You went to legal. So,
Your mic. Can you speak to your mic?
well, we do have, Mr. DeGarro's right. We have special counsel for the sanitation contract, so we probably should get them. I don't know if we can get them on the phone now, but we should probably have them weigh in on this.
Who's our special counsel for garbage?
Franklin Barbosa, I forget the name of the firm.
I can at least advise you that you can reject bids as long as you have a legal basis to reject the individual bids. There has to be some reason for it. And there has to be some objective and provable criteria. So you know, it can be done. However, you know, the statutes are very clear as to what the basis of those are. It does not appear, to me anyway, that there's any basis for doing that here. But again, that becomes more of the legal to determine.
Is it possible to get the council on the phone? Is it, can we do that relatively quickly, even if we have to come back to them in a minute?
May have to go into close because it could be a litigation issue.
So is it something that requires closed session, or is it something we can discuss? We're asking general.
Well, it depends on the.
Well, the general question is, are we able to reject the bids in this particular case?
Well, again, you'd have to have the reason. You'd have to determine, in other words, why, answer your question. No one's going to be able to answer your question until you can say, why do you want to reject the bid?
The reason is that we rejected the other vendor and they were $1 million less.
That's
because
not
of
why
the
they were
carding.
rejected. They were rejected on other criteria under the
I
statute.
thought it was because they didn't give an option for carding, and now that we're not going to go the carding route.
Who said we're not going to county?
Well, let's do one at a time, and let me call them, because this is, so,
My understanding based on the majority of the council is that we're not going to.
So they were fatally flawed.
I don't know that we've deliberated
That wasn't
that
determined by
publicly.
me or our town attorney or Mr. Gross. That was determined by our sanitation council, that was fatally flawed.
Okay, so.
well, one second, let me call
Yeah,
him. Councilman Scarpa,
Yeah, if we were to determine, and I believe we have the majority, that we want to keep our garbage contracts, based upon the research that I've done, and I've surveyed a lot of the population. I've got over 200 responses from residents that don't want to go to the cards, that want to keep the existing system. I've got maybe a dozen, if that.
That's
have
a
said
choice the
that they
council
want to go
has.
to the card. So I believe probably a majority of the council, and I believe a majority of the electorate also wants to keep our garbage as it is. So if we wanted to bid our garbage as it is today, could we rebid
It has been bid in this bid includes an option which basically keeps it as it is today.
But you threw it out.
No, we
No.
didn't.
well, time out. So,
But you did.
so the issue that Councilwoman Scarpa is raising, and it's the same issue that Mr. DeBovi raised, is that the requirement under the bid was that you respond to all 4 options. The respondent that Councilwoman Scarpa is referencing,
$1 million less.
and Councilman Geber Michael,
It's a lot of money.
only responded to option 1. So I understand that they were tossed out. The concern is that did not provide the best outcome for us to consider or for residents to pay for. So if we didn't have that requirement that every respondent had to respond to all 4 options, you would have allowed garbage contractors that do not currently have the infrastructure for the carts to bid as well, which would have given us at least one more bid, we know, for the non-cart option. And in this case, that bid came in a lot lower, right? So the question, and this is the same, and what I want to try and do is not escalate this into an argument. But the question is, legally, what are we able to do with regard to getting rid of all the responses and reopening. And if we did that, because, you know, the other side of this, and this has been a concern of mine, that seems to be legitimate, I could be wrong. If I'm currently providing a service and I'm doing it at a discount to what I should be getting paid, what is the incentive for me to go another 6 months on a maybe that I might get it again? Right? And I might not, especially now that we know what some of these numbers are, and I think the bid might even be tainted. So I don't know. I'm not happy with the way the process went. I'm not happy that we had that clause in there with all 4 options had to be responded to. But I think we do need to know what our legal rights are, and then what the ramifications would be if we made that decision. Now, if that's not something you can provide, and it doesn't seem like it's something you can provide, either one of you, I think it's something that the attorney would have to provide for us from a legal standpoint. If we can get that attorney to express that to us now, then I think that would be helpful. Even if it's later in the meeting, because it will likely come up when we deal with the introduction of the budget. Doesn't have to be answered in this exact moment. But I do think it would be helpful if we can get them on. So Mr. Gingaro, please reach out if you have the contact, who has the contact information for the attorney.
The attorney, what firm is this attorney with? I don't remember us voting on this person, so how can special counsel be hired without going through the legislative body, without us voting on it? Do we know what firm he's from? Chief,
I'm sorry.
do you know what firm Franklin Barbosa?
I just texted him.
I don't recall the name, huh? Okay, so we did vote on that. Okay, thank you. We did, okay. But
All right, so that's step 1. Let's see if we can get a response from the attorney. And then based on that response, step 2 may or may not even be, it may be moved.
Council President,
special counsel, sorry. Why do we have special counsel representing us when we have our township attorney and Mr. Gingaro?
There's a conflict.
Oh, there's
What
a
was the
conflict. What was the conflict?
I believe Mr. Trank has a conflict with having represented one of the bidders before.
So I'd like to know where that conflict lies.
I think I know. I think he represents suburban.
Well, I want to know.
Isn't it?
Mr. Gingaro, you can send it in an email if you don't want to say it publicly, but I would like to know that before we go any further.
Mhm.
And I'm disappointed that that is now being brought to our attention and only under these circumstances. And then people get upset when there's a lack of trust. This is an example of that. If there was a conflict with any member of the administration and any bidder,
Council needs.
we should have known. And
Absolutely.
we should not have just now found out. So please get the attorney on. Mr. Fagan, please be prepared to bring him on. And we're going to stop the meeting as soon as we can. We're not going to waste his time. You can let him know. We won't hold him. As soon as he gets on, we'll get him on and we'll get
We
him.
can bring him on Zoom through the public link, or if he calls via cell phone, we can mic his cell phone. Either option is available.
We can't do the closed without notice. We
Yeah.
can't just jump into closed right now on
We
garbage
have to
without
notice it
notice.
and do it for this week, or like schedule it, maybe
Council
an
President,
hour.
I have one other comment.
Yes, Councilman, but I
If for some reason we cannot get him on and get clarification to right now,
Mhm.
I would like written clarification to all of the council members.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Abbott, Mr. Fagan's able to get him on either via Zoom, through the public link, or by phone. He has a dial-in number. If we are not able to get him in tonight, we would like a written explanation of what our legal responsibilities and rights are with regard to rejecting the bids. And then we're going to need to schedule a closed session to discuss this. And so Madam Clerk will alert you, and when we get to new business tonight, we'll figure out some time.
And speaking of new business, may not even make sense to even discuss the garbage until we discuss this first. So there's to keep Mr. Fonzino, there might not even make sense.
Well,
Councilman?
so to that point, I hear what you're saying,
It's not fair for him,
but
it's not need to like midnight.
no, I don't want him to have to wait either, but there's also another conversation because I'm not there with the carts because I'm still not really wrapping my head around how that would work for the property owners in the downtown corridor. And some other properties that I've talked to some of the residents. And so that's been my issue with this. I also, with one of the options, I would have liked to have seen, we talked about somebody brought it up in the session, like a 2A from the public. Another option to separate out like 2 days a week. And not that I would be charging businesses right now, but maybe down the road, look at a way for some of the business owners to be separated out. So that was another option that, and I get it, there couldn't have been more than 4 options. Because you couldn't have too many options to bid on, but I was hoping that there would have been another category. And so, okay, well, we'll see where this leads, but I don't know where I'm going to defer to the council president. Where we having a conversation about this in pending matters or?
Well, if we can get the attorney on and he can discuss at least the first part of that, then we will address that. He or she, I don't know who the attorney is, their response to us may negate even going to step 2. I don't know. We will still have to understand what these conflicts are. And I would not be prepared to vote on it until I did understand the conflicts. I will say, Councilwoman, and you and I had some good conversation today. We just didn't have enough time to go through everything. But one of the issues that has been raised is with regard to the carts. And Mr. Fonzino sent an email about it, and others have chimed in. Councilwoman Williams actually had some commentary about it as well. Is addressing the issue of rodents, particularly in the Main Street and South Valley corridors. So, that was the biggest selling point for me with regard to the carts. However, if we're not going to use carts, then we're going to have to figure out a way, and we'll have to address it in the capital budget, to increase the number of garbage cans we provide in that corridor and have a plan to actually empty them out on a regular basis. I know there's some additional DPW workers that may be properly situated there. It may have to come up in our garbage contract. I don't know. But there has to be a way to address the overflow of garbage in that corridor that is attracting rodents. We would be remiss as elected officials if we didn't do something to address it. And the carts would have been an effective deterrent, or at least would help contain it. If we're not going to go in that route, then we need to address it differently. And my recommendation would be, and I would hope my colleagues would agree, to take a small portion of whatever we were going to spend on garbage carts and spend them on garbage cans and use our DPW employees to empty them frequently. Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you, Council President. When I was at the Turtleback Zoo Loop earlier this week, I noticed that the county has implemented some new carting systems. They have solar, some type of solar capacity on the top with a handle for you to do, and they're side by side recycling and trash. I don't know, and I was going to call and contact the county to see how those were acquired. But that is a new system that has been implemented, and we have Mr. Polisi, who is still here. And if I could share this photo with you, maybe you.
Well, Councilwoman, I can actually speak to that. 2 years ago, Director Carballo and I met with the county. The county generously offered us multiple garbage cans. Those solar powered, they actually compress the garbage as well. And they are Wi-Fi enabled, so they alert DPW when they're full, so that DPW doesn't waste a trip for a half empty or half full garbage can. she followed up this year for whatever reason, and I don't want to argue. For whatever reason, we didn't accept those garbage cans. Again, thank you.
Wow.
She followed up again this year via email. I'm hopeful that the offer is still on the table. And what I was told, at least my understanding is as more come in, we may be able to get some. But that's something we should do townwide, even if the county gave us 10 of them. That wouldn't be enough to address either Main Street corridor or South Valley alone. That says nothing about where the high school is on Pleasant Valley Way. We get a ton of trash up there as well.
Yeah.
So whatever the county offers us, and again, we do say thank you, and I hope we can get that done. We're gonna have to make an investment. And those are very expensive.
Well, that's.
Those
my
are not the
question.
cheapest.
Is there a grant opportunity? How did the county acquire them? Because they are throughout, and I've seen them in other municipalities as well. So was there a grant application where you all acquired those on a county level? Do you know? And if that grant is still available? Do you know how those were
So,
obtained?
Mr. Puglisi, if you would address it briefly, but here's what we can do, because this is the work that doesn't need to be done in the public. We can figure out the solutions and then present those solutions and then decide in public.
Right, so the name of that is it's called a Big Belly.
What?
Big Belly.
Big belly, okay.
So I don't know how we purchase them. I can definitely ask and get you that information. And I can follow up with our Public Works to see if we still have any or are getting any new ones in.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Puglisi. All right, so at this point, I think we've beaten a dead horse.
Can I make a recommendation? So the budget tonight, we had agreed to pass what we have done on first reading,
Introduce, yes.
introduce, and then we'll go back to do what we need to do. So you want that conversation to be had with questions from Mr. Fonzino tonight, because then that would indicate
Well,
whether
I
he has to
hope,
stay.
yes, so good point, Councilwoman. We would have, based on my polling of some of my colleagues, you included, and what we've said publicly here, it does not look like, and what was said in the meeting, Mr. DeFeo had, I can't remember when that was.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
It does not look like we're going with option 4.
No.
It looks like we would go with option 1, which would be less than option 4. Because you don't have the debt service on the carts at all. So there would be some adjustment, or at least some perceived savings. We'd have to discuss that. But I don't want to vote on that. We're not voting on the garbage contract.
No.
We're introducing the budget. And if the budget is affected after the fact by a change to the garbage contract, then so be it, but I don't want to hold up the budget. I think we have a July 29.
Can't hold up the budget.
We have a July 29 deadline that we're trying to manage against. So is it 19th? Yeah, sorry, I was going off of memory. So, so I think we should still introduce, and if any of my colleagues are prepared to offer amendments tonight, I know I am, we can vote on those amendments too, and continue to do the work until we actually go toward adoption. Is that satisfactory, colleagues? Okay, so we will introduce later.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, there's a question on, by Ms. Is it Wardell? Hardell, sorry, I'm sorry. I wrote W and I didn't even look right. On the reopening of the application process, Mr. Smeraldo, maybe you're better situated to answer this question. Or maybe we should ask Mr. Moon, what is our expectation for reopening?
Because I don't have that, but that would be a question. I don't have that.
All right.
Mr. Guevara stepped down, we can ask him when we come back.
Got it. All right. Mr. Kukoviac asked some questions about specific resolutions and ordinances. I think we can deal with those questions when we get to those ordinances. There have been some questions raised by council members already about those. So rather than prolong this meeting any further, I think we are done Unless any other final questions or comments for
I
public
was gonna
comment?
just address public comment
Sure.
real quick. Michaela Bennett, thank you so much for expressing some of your concerns that many of us have been concerned about for a very long time. The garbage contract is a quality of life issue for every resident, which is why I always thought it should be a referendum. But when I realized it wasn't and it was being rushed like this, I put out my own survey. I used my marketing skills and put out my own survey to all of the residents that I have contact with. And I can't tell you, the responses are continuing to come in. I had a couple of hundred responses already. All of them, people who wanted to keep the existing system, the existing cans. I had not even a dozen people who wanted the carts. And I want to thank the public for responding. People had said to me, thank you so much for alerting us to this, to asking us how we feel about it. People have given me some of the most thoughtful and detailed responses to this and I am prepared to read some of them at our next council meeting because I think everyone should hear them. And I think everyone should do this kind of research and continue get out and talk to our residents. I also talked to our business residents. I've talked to the Schneiders last week. I walked around Main Street. None of the businesses on Main Street want to see us go to the cart system. And most people had problems with where they're going to store them and the size, particularly people who live in apartment buildings and in condos. One association are all alerting all their members because they have small garages and they said they don't have anywhere to put the cart. So there are many, many unaddressed issues. And I think we need to be thorough, more thoughtful about what we're doing here. In terms of Mr. Kukoviac's questions, I have similar concerns about Battaglia, the transport vans. I also had questions about the specificity. PKF, I had brought up some concerns with their audit a year ago, and I was very concerned that the state recommendations were not put into the recommendations section of the audit. So I will be voting no on that as well. And the debt situation, I was just having a conversation with some of my colleagues. I'm trying to get a handle on what that is. And thank you so much for your expertise and so eloquently alerting us to the debt situation, which I have been concerned about for a very long time.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Scarpa. Did you want to say something? Oh, did you? You can.
I just want to make one statement, and Councilwoman, I appreciate that you did a survey and everything, but just some comments that came back to me this weekend. This council, as a all collective body, at the last budget hearing, which was 2 weeks ago, publicly stated that we were going to stay at twice a week. So I was a little confused, the comments over the weekend, that people were still confused, thinking that we were going to keep it at once a week, which that was not the case, as there was a conversation
That's right.
that all five of us agreed on that we would keep it twice a week. So I just want the public to know that for the past 2 weeks, this council 2 weeks ago decided that we were going to keep it at twice a week and not change that. The debate was over the carts. So I just wanted to share that with the public so they had full disclosure what was decided upon.
I think more people are going to be tuning in because people are realizing that garbage affects their life. And I think more people are going to be coming to meetings and also reaching out to us.
Yeah, and that's good.
Formally
That's why
announcing.
Ms. Brill sent a survey to the downtown corridor as well, informing our business owners because they were going to be affected.
Great.
And we wanted to get input back from them. So, we appreciate all those efforts as well.
I think
So as the public reaches out, please be reminded, moving it to once a week is not, it has no support from this council. Councilwoman Williams.
in addition, just wanted to be clear that we have in our own way reached out to our own bases and inquired. As soon as the presentation was made months ago, over a month and a half ago, there was a survey that was put out. I put out a survey inquiring. It has been very clear from our constituents that a reduction in the garbage is immediate as the presentation was done, just the introduction of the presentation, that was not amenable to the West Orange. So again, to that point, there is no question about whether or not we want to go to 1 or 2 weeks. I think the question for this body, again, is whether or not the cart system is viable and something we want to invest in as a community. One of the things that I think is extremely important and certainly was already mentioned is that the rodent issue that we have, and this cart system absolutely will curtail the problem that we have with rodents. I am supportive of the cart system conditionally, and I think those conditions are, and I've stated this on the record publicly, and I want to make sure that I'm clear in stating it again. It should be the homeowners' choice as to whether or not we have a cart that is a 96-gallon cart, a 64-gallon cart, or a 32-gallon cart. And that should be based on the space that they have. If you have a cart now, whether it is round or rectangular, it is typically no less than a 32-gallon cart. If you have a 32-gallon cart, the base of the carts that have been suggested, displayed, and presented to us have the same base. So that size is the same base no matter what size cart you get. The variation is going to be in the expansion size of the cart. So no matter where you place your cart, if you have a 32-gallon waste container right now, it is going to be virtually the same space that is utilized.
We're not actually going to vote on that tonight.
I understand that, but if I can add I understand. But if I can continue my comments, I don't recall you interrupting anyone else. So I just want to make clear that some of the commentary has been about the cart system. I want to clarify some of the concerns that have been voiced with the cart system. So again, we have trash receptacles at our properties. Unless you are just putting your trash in a plastic bag because of space, then that would be the only rationale to why a cart system could not be implemented. But I do believe that the public should have the option to determine what size cart, which would mean if we were going to go in the cart direction, we would have to purchase the most expensive carts and then give the homeowner that discretion. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Fagan, do you have the attorney?
President, please be advised, we have established contact with Mr. Barbosa, and he's being given instructions as we speak on how to get into the meeting. I'm anticipating him within the next 5 minutes into the meeting. Just when he comes in, I will bring him on live immediately.
Thank you.
President, if I got an answer for you from Mr. Moon. So it says we need to pass this ordinance tonight in order to increase the number of licenses for the cultivation and manufacturing. And so this way we can request for the applications so people can put it.
So thank you. So we will do that tonight. I don't think there's any pushback. At least I haven't heard of any pushback so far, at least enough to stop that. What I'd also like to know is what else is involved in the process to be able to reopen. So if this is not the only thing that we have to do, please let us know and ask him so that we don't take up further time in the meeting. We started at 6:30 because we know we've got to get through this budget tonight. And you know, it's already 7:45. So if he could send that in an email to us, and then we will communicate with our constituents.
Specify that this is for both the applications and the operation. So we did specify it as response. But I'll ask him to send something more formal to me.
Thank you. Just, you know, in addition to what is before us tonight, what else is required before we can reopen? Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Gingaro, please communicate with Township Attorney that the council would like to know in detail what his conflict of interest is and when he was planning on alerting us to it and why it wasn't done before now. Thank you.
He recused himself early. Mr. Trent has never represented with, as long as he's been representing Suburban, he's never represented them with the township that I'm aware of. So he's made us aware of this early on. I didn't know you didn't know. I thought it was well known.
I had no idea.
Special counsel, that's why we became special counsel.
To my colleagues, did any of you know that Mr. Trink represented Suburban?
No, I did not.
None of us knew. So that is something that he certainly should have alerted us to. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on. Madam Clerk.
So the consent agenda, approval of minutes of previous meeting, public meeting, June 25th, 2024.
Consent.
Report of township officers, none. Reading of petitions and communications and bids, none. The bill is for July 9th, 2024.
Well, I just want to put on the record, I have raised concerns about Samuel Klein and Co. I am not pulling their bills as of yet. In new business, I'm going to request that we have executive session to discuss it. I'm not satisfied with the responses I've gotten from our township attorney telling us that we cannot rescind a resolution awarding a contract when this council has already done that and prior councils have done that. So that answer is wholly unsatisfactory. And in new business, we'll address when we can have executive session to discuss it. I just wanted that on the record.
Okay. Resolutions. Are any resolutions being pulled this evening?
Yes, I'm pulling 201.
Hold on one second. I just wanted to say before you started, resolution 21224, resolution amending fees set forth in ordinance 2861-24 is being pulled because the ordinance had to be pulled due to a publication issue.
And the ordinance is 2861.
Yes. So that was pulled and this resolution is also pulled. And also 2859 was pulled for the same reason, publication issue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome. And okay, so 201 you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to pull 203.
I have a question on 202. So we have 201, 202, 203. Okay.
Any others? There
I
are
think-
some additional.
I think.
Yep.
205.
Pulling
Is
or
that a-
question?
I have a question on 201, 202, and 205.
Okay.
203, I do not. I put it okay.
Okay.
207, I have a question.
Okay.
I think 207, we've already talked about Battaglia and the,
Oh, I'm pulling 207 to vote no.
okay,
So-
it's being pulled, that's fine. Okay.
Any others, colleagues, before I add my 2 cents? Pulling 209. That's it.
Okay.
So just so that we're clear, Madam Clerk, we have 201 being pulled by Councilwoman Geber Michael, 203 being pulled by Councilwoman Castellino, 207 and 209 being pulled by me. And then Councilwoman Williams has questions on 202 and 205. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right.
Council President, please be advised that Mr. Barbosa is in. Mr. Barbosa, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, you are in the West Orange Township Council meeting. Today, of course, is July 9th, and we are live in front of the council, Township Council, in council chambers, and I believe they have a few questions for you. I'm going to turn you over to Council President Bill Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Thank you, Mr. Barbosa, for joining us on no notice. We do appreciate you making yourself available. We have a question with regard to the garbage contract, particularly the RFP that was released and responded to quite some time ago. We wanted to know what our legal rights and responsibilities are with regard to accepting or rejecting those responses. There may be enough support on the town council. We've not voted, and this is our first time discussing it. But there may be enough support to reject all of the responses. And we'd like to know what legally we would be able to do. For context, there was a single bidder that was disqualified because that company's bid was only for one option. One of the requirements for the bid, as you may know, was that respondents submit a response to all four options. And this particular bidder only submitted a response to one option. And it ended up being an option that we may consider and that there's appears to be support as of tonight for. And so we'd like to know what and that bidder was about $1 million less than the next highest bidder. So we'd like to know what our options are legally, and then we'll have some follow-up questions for you.
Understood, and thank you for reaching out. I'm here to help, and I'll try my best to answer your questions as thoroughly as possible. So look, generally speaking, there is no requirement that you award a contract after a bid and after you receive results or responses. The problem that you run into is if you then go out and try to rebid it, and you rebid it with the same options or with one of those same options that was set forth in the original bid, then you're gonna face serious challenges, and you could lose on that challenge.
Got it. Councilwoman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. So if this Councilman Castellino, if we were to do that and you did not use, from what I'm hearing, any one of those four options, say you determined two other options, then you would be able to do that, or without better prepared not to be challenged?
Well, so you just speaking strictly legally, you know, from a bidder challenge perspective, if your new bid is entirely different, then you would be more insulated from a challenge. Now I probably have some context of what's happened here. I understand that there's a DCA issue, and that you know, this, if I'm not speaking out of turn, you guys have you're on an emergency or on an extension of a contract that's expired, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So if you're going to have to rebid this, you would have to then go out to DEP again, right? And you would need to get that process, the new bid specs approved by DEP before you could even go out and rebid it. So you're talking about an even longer gap in time. And then, you know, I know that DCA has been, you know, speaking with your professional, Mr. DeFeo, and has expressed concern about how long it's taking. So that's probably the other consideration that you would need to keep in mind with respect to how you proceed with next steps.
I have a question.
1 second. Mr. Barbosa, we disqualified a bidder because the bidder did not provide all four options.
That's right.
But that bidder ended up being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the option that we are most likely to choose. And again, we haven't voted on it yet, but that's been expressed tonight and in other forums. So is that disqualification permanent? Is there nothing we can do with that respondent at this point?
Well, to go back to the, you know, the beginning part of your statement there, they cannot be the lowest responsive or responsible bidder if they've got a defect that disqualifies them. The issue here was that four options were put out for bid, and this bidder only bid on one. it's not, they were not in compliance with the bid specifications and arguably obtained or interfered with the competitive nature of the bidding by picking one option and only bidding on that option. If you try to award a contract to someone who did that, then you're going to face challenges from other bidders, including people who may not have even bid, because they would argue that, well, I didn't bid on this project because I didn't realize you could only bid on one. I thought you had to bid on all four. So there's an interference with the competitive advantage. So no, I mean, if the bidder's disqualified, they're disqualified.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. Councilman Williams and then Councilman Scarpa.
Thank you. So my question was somewhat asked, and then because my concern is, even though they may have come in as the lowest possible bidder, the fact that they've been disqualified because they didn't respond to the actual bid requirements. If we were to reject all of these offers, even though they have exposed the fact that they were willing to come in at $1 million less, is there any guarantee that if we put this back out to bid, now knowing that they were $1 million less, is there anything that would require them to come in at that same rate?
No.
So we could possibly put this back out to bid, now knowing what the thresholds are, and we may not be able to get that reduced or perceived reduction in the $1 million because they just very well may not come back at that price.
Yes, exactly. And that's not a legal concern for necessarily for me to address. That is certainly a practical and a pragmatic concern for you and the council. There's no requirement that this party come back with the same bid. And again, if you're going out to market and you're bidding the same exact thing that you are now rejecting, then you are going to run into issues.
So would it be permissible for us to have the same requirements, but deviate in a way where if a particular company could not do a cart system, or if they only responded to how I guess the question that I'm asking directly is, how would we protect ourselves from litigation if we were to reject the bids? Can you disclose that to us or advise us in that capacity?
In the public?
So it's council. We get advised by council in the public
No, I'm just saying,
every day.
Yeah.
So I think we need to understand how to protect ourselves and our residents. And if he can share that with us by saying, yeah, you can put it back out to bid, but if people want to just bid on one of the particular categories as opposed to all four, that would protect you, because that's not putting the same thing out to bid. I think that's what we're asking. How do we protect ourselves and our residents?
No, I don't blame you for asking. All right.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple nuances to your question. So if you go out to bid, we'll break it down in multiple steps. If you go out to bid and you throw out the same four options, for example, that's 100% going to run into a challenge. If you go out and you take one of those options and you rebid it, okay, even if it's rebid with another different option along with it, you are probably going to run into a litigation issue there, because if you are rebidding any portion of the original bid, even if it's just partially, like you're bidding a part of that original bid, you're going to run into challenges there. That's what I mean. That's my explanation, is that, you can't bid in whole or in part your original bid that you're scrapping.
No, that does make sense.
Because that would just be, think about it practically. That would be a way for a town to just get around any bidder it doesn't like that's the lowest bidder. If you just say, okay, we're going to scrap it, and then you go out and rebid it again, in whole or in part, you're bypassing the entire system. That's what the law is designed to protect against.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. Councilman Scarpa?
Yeah, I have a question about how we might be able to restructure the bid so that it's not the exact same and we don't have that liability. I think the option that I know the public and I believe many of my colleagues would like to see is what we have now. However, bulk as a option has been brought up a lot. So if we rebid option number one, not exactly as it is, but with bulk pickup as a separate, like kind of menu option.
I think that's what
with-
Councilman was getting at.
Can-
Commercial.
Yeah, would that suffice to protect us from any kind of litigation?
So that would provide you with certainly some more protection. I guess the thing I want to clarify is nothing completely insulates you from a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing our best to try and figure out the best way forward, but nothing will completely insulate you from a challenge. As you can imagine, a bidder who has been successful on this particular bid, or you know, feels that they're the lowest responsive bidder, if you scrap it, I mean, there's nothing that would prevent them from challenging it. I don't mean to say that you're immune from challenge. There are varying degrees. It's a spectrum of success on a challenge. It's just plainly speaking, if you change up the options, then you are more protected from losing on a challenge. But again, you know, it does get dicey because anytime you throw out a bid, you are throwing out an arguably successful bidder who would have a reason to challenge.
Well, let me ask you this. How common is it that companies do throw out a bid for a garbage contract and restructure it and rebid it?
I don't know. I personally have not dealt with that. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. Thank you, Councilman.
I'm good.
Councilman Geber Michael.
Good evening, Mr. Barbosa. My name is Councilman Azmar Geber Michael, and I have 3 questions for you. Since you're our special counsel due to the conflict of interest, did you write the RFPs, the first one? Did you disqualify the bidder that came in at $1 million less? And if so, wouldn't that create a conflict of interest in rendering advice tonight about this? That's it. Those are my 3 questions.
Sure. No, those are good questions. So first one, no, I did not participate in writing the RFP. Number 2, yes, I'm engaged in the analysis. I performed the legal analysis regarding disqualification of bidder number of the bidder that you've been referencing. 3, do I think it presents a conflict of interest? No, I don't have a conflicted representation. I represent the Township of West Orange as special counsel on procurement and bidding issues whenever I'm called upon. I don't have any conflicted loyalty to the client, which is the township.
Understood. Thank you.
And I just want to piggyback off of Councilman Scarpa. I think that we should reissue this RFP. I've been, vocal about it already tonight, and do so with, I think we need bulk, but maybe bulk every other week or once a month, whatever it is, put out those options, But, I think it's important that we do this.
Thank you,
Oh,
Councilwoman.
wait, one more question.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa.
Councilman Scarpa.
Yeah, we had.
Whoa,
go ahead.
Yeah.
If we pursue throwing out the bid and looking to rebid it, what is the clause with the current contract that they could discontinue service with us? What does that look like, that situation?
I'm not familiar with the terms of the current contract.
Okay.
Can someone from the administration answer that?
Councilwoman, Councilman Scarpa.
Yeah, just real quick, you said it would be a long time. DEP would have to approve the new bid. How long exactly would that be? Or can you give us some kind of a range? How long would that be?
So and forgive me because I'm going off the top of my head. So I know you have to present it to DEP, and then I think there is at least another 60-day period on top of however long it takes for DEP to approve the to approve the specifications as written. Admittedly, I don't know what your status is with DCA and what role DCA would play if there was a scrapping of the bids. I understand that there has been, extensions due to the fact that you've extended your current contract, and that I think you are behind on getting this new contract in place. So I can't weigh in on what DCA may or may not do. I don't know. But you do have to send it to DEP, and I believe, and this is just going off the top of my head, I think there's another 60-day period after that before you can even bid it.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. I have a couple of follow-ups as well. We were made aware the conflict of interest that our township attorney has with regard to this particular company. We were made aware of that tonight. Does that in any way, shape, or form affect this bid, the responses of the bidders, the release of the RFP? Should we have been informed that there was a conflict of interest before tonight?
Well, admittedly, I don't know all the facts of beyond looking at the bids and having participated in my limited capacity. So I'm only qualified or retained, I should say, to step in whenever there's a conflict and to deal with procurement or bid issues. I don't see that there's a conflict based on the limited information that I have. I don't see that tarnishes or somehow diminishes the bid or the responses, but I don't see it based on what I know, but I don't know a lot here.
So one further question on that line of thinking, because it seems to me like that's information that we should have had before tonight in considering these responses, but I accept your answer. The issue, in addition to that, is whether or not requiring each respondent to have a response for all 4 options favored any particular company over another. Would that, because it seems like the fact that a company responded to one of the options and probably other companies to your earlier response, if they knew they could respond to only one, we probably would have gotten additional respondents. Is that too narrow of a focus? And does that allow us to reject those bids solely, reject those responses, rebid it with that sole removal, meaning you can respond to 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these options?
And forgive my pause because I'm just trying to, replay your question because there were a couple parts to it. So again, there's nothing that requires you to issue a contract once you've received bids. That much is generally speaking, that much is understood. So you could decide that you just don't want to proceed with the options that you have. So does that answer your question?
If we rebid it without the requirement that each respondent had to respond to all 4 options and allowed respondents to choose to respond to one or more options, is that sufficient of a change to mitigate some of the risk. I know we'll never be completely insulated, to use your terms, but to mitigate some of the risk of being challenged?
No, because if you're going out with the same options, but you're just changing the requirement that you can, that you can bid on one and not have to bid on all of them, I think you're going to run into, I believe you're going to run into issues because you're effectively just rebidding it and giving, you're almost like going around the result to give it to the bidder who was disqualified in the first instance.
I have one last question for you, Mr. Barbosa. And just for the record, we don't have a single attorney on this council, and anyone that acts like they know the law is acting. My last question for you, Mr. Barbosa. Should this end up in litigation? Should it be challenged? Should Suburban, which is the company that our township attorney represents, should they challenge us? Our township attorney would not be able to represent them or us in that challenge. That's right. That's correct. Is that right?
Well, to your question, I'm not a conflict expert. I'm not a conflicts attorney. I mean, I'm just here to advise you on bid issues, not whether someone can represent. And for that reason, I have to respectfully limit the scope of my statements and my testimony to, the issue at hand, which is the bids and what your options are from a legal standpoint. I can't opine on someone's conflicts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barbosa. Colleagues, any other questions before we move on?
No, thank you. That was very helpful.
Administration, you guys want to ask anything? Mr. Gingaro? No? Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. You've been very helpful tonight.
He's cut off, Council President. I just want to acknowledge the help of my colleague, her assistance in securing him on here, Megan Brill, tonight. It's very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Thank you, Ms. Brill. I will just say for me, this process now, to me, is tainted. And I am deeply disappointed on top of all the other things that we have dealt with, for none of us to have been informed that Mr. Trink represents Suburban is a problem. I think that is material to our decision-making process. And so I can't express how deeply disappointed I am that we are just now learning this information. I think we're gonna have to get back to our agenda, but I do think in new business, we ought to discuss, and I am happy to bring up rejecting these bids
I will support it.
and rebidding.
Council supports it.
Councilwoman Castellino, I understand and share your concern. This is certainly not an easy decision. Ultimately, I would hate for us to be scrambling in an emergency format to find a new garbage collector. And I recognize that that is a risk. We too often have to choose between bad options. And so at this point, for me, there are no good options. So, colleagues, I hope you mull it over, kind of process what we've learned tonight. And in new business, I'm going to offer a motion.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to thank Mr. Fonzino because obviously the contract came up and Mr. Smeraldo, I know, spent a lot of time with all of this and the chief. So we have, again, let's go back to the issue at hand with introducing carts. You should not, use the word tainted is disturbing because we all received the pictures. We all been receiving issues from residents for past two years or so in regards to the garbage situation in certain areas of the town. And to Mr. Fonzino's credit, I know he sent us a letter notifying us and the reason why he wanted carts. And to hear otherwise, first of all, the carts haven't, if we decide to go with them, the carts haven't been decided. The company that we're purchasing from, that's another bid that has to go out that hasn't gone out yet. Those were just sample carts. There's other multiple vendors that have different carts. So that was something else, one of the comments I read. So again, it's disappointing on certain things to learn this evening, but on the other hand, it wasn't a tainted process. So I just don't think that's a fair comment.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Fonzino, this is no reflection on you or you, Mr. Smeraldo. My use of the word tainted, I stand by. I think it reflects solely on Mr. Trent. That is information that we should have known. Madam Clerk, we have several resolutions that have been pulled. We have 201, 203, 207, and 209 have been pulled. I think you want to do the questions first. That's 202 and 205. Do you want to do those so that we can vote on those? And
Yeah, that would be best. Everybody should ask their questions first.
All right, so Councilwoman Williams, you have questions on 202?
No, I started with 201.
It's going to be pulled for no, so.
Okay, so on 202, my question was, how was matrix procured? I didn't read in the resolution whether or not we put out a bid. I just saw that they responded. So that was my question.
It was a professional services contract. It was done through an RFQ process.
It was done through our
RFQs.
Okay.
Does that satisfy your question, Councilwoman? You have a question on 205?
Is this a statutory position for us to do the health officer services? And who, why are we subcontracting this out? Who previously held that position?
Good evening. So yes, it is a statutory requirement to have a licensed health officer. Ms. DeNova previously served in this capacity. As you know, she passed away earlier this year, and we're not replacing that full-time position, but rather doing a shared services with the Essex Regional Health Commission.
Thank you, Director Fonzino. And it looks like, if I can just identify the cost savings to the township, that we're subcontracting this out at a cost of $80,000 annually. Looks like it's $5,000 per quarter over a 3-year period.
It's $20,000 a year
Oh, it's $20,000 a year.
for a 3-year contract.
Oh, then that's a substantial savings.
Yes.
Tremendous.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was my question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fonzino, Director Fonzino. Those are the only two we had questions on that weren't pulled to vote no. So
Make a
Madam Clerk?
motion. I make a motion for consent, to pass the consent agenda.
Oh, okay.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is implemented. Resolution 201-24, resolution authorizing award of professional services agreement for Dr. Michael Kelly for cancer screening for the West Orange Fire Department. Councilwoman Geber Michael.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. So I pulled this 2 weeks ago and asked for it to be tabled so I can continue to do some more due diligence, and which I'm happy that I did. I do plan to vote no to this. I'm disappointed that we were not given honest information by the administration. Mr. Smeraldo, I'm sorry, like you were very upset in the last meeting and you had stated that this firm is only going to be available for 4 consecutive days throughout the year. But I actually reached out to the firm and spoke to them, and that's incorrect. They will come back. They just can't come back for one person. I even have it, I have an email in which they sent me a list of all the various municipalities in the state of New Jersey. They have cancer screening experience. They work with other departments throughout the state. And what I was very disappointed in is that it was made to seem that myself, council President Rutherford and Councilwoman Scarpa didn't care about our firefighters, didn't care about cancer. And I'm going to get emotional now because no one on this council has lost more family members to cancer than I have. And I care about our fire and our police. I care about our public safety and I care about our guys and women, men and women who put their life on the line every single day. So I do not appreciate at all what transpired between us 2 weeks ago. And I'm so happy I did my due diligence because this resolution did not read right. To have a clause, again, for people who are chiming in who are unaware, there's a clause in here at the bottom in asterisk. Township and Dr. Kelly agree that West Orange Mayor Susan McCartney has not been involved in any aspect of this agreement, including but not limited to solicitation, negotiation, consideration, or award of this agreement. And I asked on the record, why was that there? Is there a conflict? And was not able to get a response. And to me, this is funny to see this. It doesn't sit well or read right for me because I've never seen this in the 2 years since I've been on the council, a clause like this. And since the mayor has been the mayor. So I can only speak to my experience, 1. 2, I want to mention that they will be coming. When I spoke to the company, they said they're coming August 19th this year for 2 days. It's not 4 consecutive days. So we're relying on you guys, trusting you guys to go.
That's what I was told.
Hold on. Let me just tell you, and I'm going to tell you what I was told.
Okay.
Again, I'm happy that I did my due diligence because we rely on you guys when we're told to vote on things and on information. And if that was the case, like there would have been guilt knowing that they would only have 4 consecutive days, but that's not the case. The case is they will come back from more than one person. They can team up with another, if they're in one of the towns, Bloomfield, and Bloomfield only has 5 guys that day, there's still 10 open spots. They see 15 to 16 firefighters a day. That's their max. And then the process is after that, 2 weeks later, they get the results and then they schedule a consultation and they give them their results. So, you know, for me, this doesn't sit well. I also asked and said in the meeting, this was another red flag, was that Dr. Kelly does not have cancer screening experience. Why is it going to him when we have a company that's more than capable to do it? So for those reasons, I'm going to vote no on this, but just know that, you know, I was very disappointed in our last meeting. And, you know, I will end my comment.
Mr. Abbott, Mr. Smaller, before you respond, in fairness, it wasn't the 2 of you that implied that some council members don't care about cancer. I had to respond to that as well as one of my colleagues that made it seem like the rest of us or some of us didn't care about cancer. Now, with regard to the rest of that, though, I'm sure you have a response. I'm happy to hear it.
So for starters, I didn't say anything about anybody who doesn't care about cancer or anybody who doesn't care about firefighters or cops. That never came out of my mouth.
Yep.
Anybody who wants to go back and watch the last meeting is welcome to do that. Number 2, what's most disconcerting is that you talk to somebody and they told you something different than they told me. And you present to the public like I sat here and lied to you, which is not the case. I was told something completely different than you were. I'm happy to sit in the same room with the person who told it to me and let the facts fall where they fall. That gentleman said to me, I will come there for 3 consecutive days. And I said, you're going to have to come for 4 because there's 4 fire shifts. And he said, well, then we'll come for 4. Never said anything about coming back again for people they missed or anything else. That's what I was told. Put my hand on a Bible and swear to it, whatever you need, because that's what I was told. So that we didn't lie to you. We didn't mislead you. We didn't give you bad information. You did your due diligence. You heard what you wanted to hear from that gentleman. He told me something completely different. That's the end of it.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Gingaro?
I just want to respond regarding the clause that's in the contract. So that same clause again was in the resolution that was passed at the last council meeting.
Correct.
I voted 5-0.
Yeah. I'm aware of that. Thank you, Mr. Gingaro.
Okay, so just wanted to make that clear.
But it
And
was-
then it's also, my understanding is that it's included because the RFQ has a non-conflict of interest certification and provision. So it doesn't change the substance of the contract.
Well, that's new news, but thank you for updating us.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Williams and then Councilwoman Castellino.
Thank you. Just want to reiterate that all of us were very concerned because the conversation from my perspective was that the language was in both resolutions. And so I did not understand why it was okay for it to be in one resolution and not be in the other, and it was passed unanimously. My concern with the exchange that occurred was that there was commentary about speaking to firefighters in particular and the information that was communicated. Quite frankly, we all do our due diligence in our own time and space when we have the opportunity. But because this was so conflicting, I reached out to the union chair president right away. And he did feel that the information that was communicated on the record was not what he indicated and spoke directly to. He confirmed that he had conversations with several members of this council. And he also felt that the information that was stated on the record was not what he communicated. He was very comfortable with
So
both.
you're gonna have to be specific now because Mr. Abbott and I shared a different opinion. And so now we've just muddied the
Who the
word.
person was. And again, I said the union president was very comfortable, as Chief Abbott indicated on the record, that they were happy having both Dr. Kelly and the other company as resolutions and to be utilized. That he
So that's
did-
what I said.
That he did indicate, okay.
Want to
Okay.
be clear because you have been the source of some of this
Being
challenge.
very clear.
Okay,
And I'm
please
being
continue,
very
Councilman.
clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uninterrupted would be fine, if you don't mind.
Yeah, but I also am going to correct the record. I'm
You
not
can
going to
correct the
allow,
record
I'm not
when
going to
I'm
allow
done,
you,
But I don't
Councilwoman.
interrupt you when your record
Yeah,
is not
but
accurate.
this
And
is
nor does
important.
anyone else, and this is
Yeah,
important.
and
It
I'm
is
not going to allow you
important.
to mislead the public.
I'm not misleading any more than your statements are the way you interpret them. And again, I am being very factual. I am indicating the person what they stated, and it is not different from what Chief Abbott nor you indicated on the record.
Okay.
That he was very pleased to see both entities and resolutions and options. It
Okay.
was clear, and he did indicate and repeat, there are some officers, firefighters rather, that will not go to Dr. Kelly, may not go to Dr. Kelly, and that's fine. However, let's be clear with what people state and how it is disclosed by us. And so when we're saying that they won't go to Dr. Kelly, that's not what was communicated. And so I'm clarifying, just like everybody else does, that I went directly to the source, and the source said to me that his words were misrepresented. Thank you.
And
No,
can I clarify and piggyback? Because
Well, let
that's
me
not
get-
what was said to me and the people that I spoke to, so.
Let me, Councilwoman Castellino, and I'll come back to you.
Okay, so I too done my due diligence, and again, there's gonna be staff that will go to one and some will go to the other. And the clarity, I heard it loud and clear that there's enough and plenty that will go see Dr. Kelly because of the convenience of the timing. Yes, they will come back, and I know you had shared that with me. And they will come back more that, and I trust the chief at his word. I have no other reason not to, that he was told that, because that's happened to me numerous times. You're a council person, you're calling this person off guard. They're gonna, they may forgot what they said or may change their story, and that constantly happens. So again, that's why we have the BA and they do their due diligence. At the end of the day, I don't see why this is an issue, because if they don't go to Dr. Kelly, we're not getting billed. So if no one wants to go, we'll know, and this is an issue next year. What I am disappointed as, and I'll say it the last time, I know there was issues, and no one should, we walk away and we talk about people and their reputations. We're up here on the dais. And this doctor has, he got caught in crosshairs of former administration and our staff. And with that being said, I don't want folks to walk away thinking that he's not qualified to do this service. Because that is not the issue here. For whatever reasons, we have some staff that just don't want to utilize the doctor, and I understand them. But he was also there during COVID for many residents, for many staff members. And he never turned anyone away, and he serviced many folks who at the time, if we all recall, couldn't even get their own doctors to test them and to get care. So I just wanted to share that once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
So I'd like to make a motion to introduce this.
Before we do, I need to just say one thing. So, what is most disappointing to me is that I think our votes can speak for our sentiment. I don't think we need to get into the weeds. To Councilwoman Castellino's point, dealing with people in public this way. So it was pulled to vote. Your vote will speak for it. I just will encourage anyone that is interested to go back and review the prior council meeting and see what was said for yourself. So you don't have to take anyone on this day as his word. You can see it with your own two eyes and hear it with your own ears. Sure, Councilwoman.
One comment to clarify my vote. I just want to say thank you to Councilwoman Geber Michael for doing the work and doing your due diligence and keeping us abreast of the issues. This is not the first time that we've got either inaccurate or incomplete information that we've had to deal with. So for that reason, I will be voting no.
Thank you. So I made a motion to introduce this.
It's to approve.
To approve.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Hold on a moment. Councilwoman Castellino?
This is
Yes.
the motion to approve.
Yes, to approve,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly. Yes.
Councilwoman Geber
No.
Michael? Councilwoman Scarpa?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
No.
Okay, the motion fails. Okay, the next one is 203-24, resolution granting application for local license to operate a cannabis retail business, the Library of New Jersey. Councilwoman Castellino.
That was pulled by Councilwoman Castellino, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be abstaining on this.
Okay,
Okay, that's all right. I offer a motion to approve
Second.
203.
Can I just make it?
Sure, Councilwoman
I
Scarpa.
just want to, I will be voting no on this, and I just want the library to know it has nothing to do with, their ability to do the job. It's just, I feel this is too close a location to Washington School, and it's not in the best interest of the residential community that it sits in.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm going to take the vote. Councilwoman Castellino, you're going to abstain.
Yes.
Okay, Councilwoman Geber
Yes.
Michael? Councilwoman Scarpa?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay,
So we're on 207 now.
yes, resolution authorizing execution of a professional services agreement with Battaglia Associates for miscellaneous professional services and an amount not to exceed $45,000. Council President.
Told that to vote no, based on conversations I've had with town hall employees with regard to the services provided in the past and the manner in which they were provided. I am not interested in having a public debate. I'm not interested in giving details. What I will say is I was extremely disappointed with reports that I heard. It is not a part of the culture that I want to encourage in town hall. So for those reasons, I'm voting no.
I'll make a motion to introduce.
To approve?
Motion to
To
approve.
approve. Sorry, guys.
Okay,
That
is
was
there-
the budget.
That's okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Geber
No.
Michael? Councilwoman Scarpa?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
I'm gonna abstain.
Council President Rutherford?
No.
The motion fails.
All right, we're on 209. This is extremely difficult for me. Chief, I do understand the situation that we are in. I am deeply disappointed that we're in it. both for you, SBA, the entire finance department, everybody that works in town hall, that will be affected by this. And I'm aware that you may be able to hire them even with a no vote tonight under your emergency powers. But I think without trying to go too far down this road,
Councilman, I'm sorry, are you talking about 209?
yes.
Okay, can I just read it so people know what you're
Sorry,
referencing? That's
sorry,
okay.
Madam Clerk.
No, that's okay.
It's been a night already.
I know. Resolution authorizing execution of professional services agreement with PKF O'Connor Davies for consulting services for regular accounting and other work related for the period of July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Chief, and what I'll say to wrap is I do recognize how you have navigated very difficult waters, and I applaud your effort. I am grateful for that, and I mean that sincerely. I think some of our wounds are self-inflicted. And so for that reason, I cannot support this as difficult of a vote as it is. I will not be voting yes. I will not even offer the motion. If someone else would like to offer a motion to approve, you are more than welcome.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
No.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
No.
The motion fails.
All right, council colleagues, I'd like to take a brief 5-minute break just to kind of take a deep breath, hopefully reset things. It's been a difficult moment already.
I'm
yeah.
ready to roll.
Yeah, I know you are, but there are some feelings in here. And I think it'd be good just to take a quick second.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back. 2-minute break. Didn't think about that.
We are live.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fagan. Welcome back, everybody. Madam Clerk, we just finished the resolutions.
Ordinance is on second and final.
2852.
An ordinance amending chapter 5, section 34.2, section 34.4, and 34.5, and chapter 25, section 24.2 of the revised general ordinances, licensed cannabis entities. Is there a motion to introduce on second and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
I have to take a vote on that. Councilwoman Castellino? To introduce on second and final.
Introduce to discuss, yes.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
Yes.
You have to do a public hearing as well.
We will now allow public hearing for anyone in chambers only. If you would like to comment on 2852-24, you are invited to do so now. It was read a moment ago, but I'll reread it. An ordinance amending chapter 5, section 34.2, section 34.4, section 34.5, and chapter 25, section 24.2 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of West Orange governing licensed cannabis entities. Anyone in chambers only would like to comment at this time, you're welcome.
Caleb Bennett, Old Indian Road. I'll be very brief. Please approve this. Finally, please get this done. Thank you.
That's fast.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing none, public comment is now closed.
Make a motion.
Well,
There's some questions.
Comment.
All right.
Yeah, so my comments are, I'm not gonna beat this to death, but my feelings are that I was hoping for one of the entities to open before we made any changes to the ordinance so we could see exactly what we're dealing with. And as of now, they have not, and for that reason alone, that is why I am not supporting this evening.
And I'll just make a quick comment.
Understood, Councilwoman. Yes.
I'm not supporting it either for many of the same reasons. And also I'm not comfortable with
with some of the changes. I think there's just too many.
Understood, Councilwoman. Any other debate before we go, Councilwoman?
Question, did we receive the planning board review on this ordinance? Has it gone before the planning board yet?
I believe it has, yes.
I thought it doesn't
No.
go until tomorrow.
So before
Yeah,
the planning board,
it
no,
goes
it was told
tomorrow.
it was not, it was unnecessary.
It was unnecessary.
It was
Certain amount of
unnecessary.
time passes, then it doesn't have to go before the plan.
Correct.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think it was 30 days. I'll double check.
Yeah.
There's a certain time limit.
Yeah, the
that it-
time had passed and they said it was unnecessary and to put it on the agenda.
Okay,
I
thank
spoke to
you.
Mr. Moon about
Not a problem. Thank you.
it. Okay.
So I want to thank my colleagues for weighing in. The changes that we put in here are with regard to requiring all licensed cannabis cultivator and licensed cannabis manufacturers shall establish and maintain a working odor mitigation system to prevent the emanation of offensive odors from the facilities utilized for cultivation and manufacturing. I think all of us agree with that. There was another change. Cannabis cultivator or manufacturer with no more than 10 employees shall provide at least one total parking space per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. That was the issue that may have required planning board to weigh in. They didn't, or they don't, or we don't. And then we changed the number of licenses. Shall be limited to 4 local licenses for cannabis retailers, 3 total local licenses for cannabis cultivators and manufacturers. Those are the changes, the substantive changes. I think there was 1 or 2 words changed as well, but I think those are the 3 substantive changes we discussed before we introduced this on first reading. So I still stand by those. I hope my colleagues that supported it in the past will still support it. I offer a motion that we approve 2852 on second and final reading.
Okay. Councilwoman Castellino?
No.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
No.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think we're going to need Mr. Gross for 2863.
Yeah.
I would think.
Can you grab?
Be able to take this one solo.
No.
Sober?
Solo.
So solo. Okay, I want to correct that for the record. It said solo.
Thank you, Council.
You're welcome.
That's how rumors get started.
That's exactly how you get through.
Take a vote on it and then have questions because it's on first read.
Yes, just Mr. Gross is now here, so offer a motion to introduce, well, you want to read it first?
Sure. 2863-24 calendar year 2024 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Offer a motion to introduce on first reading, 2863.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
Council President Rutherford?
Yes.
The motion carries.
For the benefit of the public in as simple and plain language as you can. Can you describe for us what the cap bank is and what this ordinance will do?
The statutes of the state of New Jersey allows for municipalities to raise certain categories of expenses up this year 2.5%, or up to 3.5% if indeed you pass an ordinance allowing you to hit the difference. The idea is not to spend that extra percent, but more to allow the township to take that and put it in its bank should it ever need it in the next couple of years. That way it's just a preventative measure in case there's some reason that it's necessary. In my career here, I think we've gone over cap twice. or 3 times maybe, where we needed to use the cap bank. So it's not a regular occurrence, but it is something that it's really important that the township have availability to, because you don't know what your situation is going to be over the next 2 years. So
This is not based on our current budget, which is a proposed increase of 2.47. This is for down the road should we need it.
That's correct.
Colleagues, any questions on the cap bank? Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Gross. We've already voted on it, introduced it. I think, is that it?
Yeah.
What?
Pending matters.
And ABC.
Oh, yeah, we have ABC
Yeah.
as well.
Let me see. Sorry. CCRB representative,
Mhm.
I am sending to us now, council, a resume. Someone I would like you to consider. It should be in your inbox. You have any questions or comments or concerns, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I hope we can vote on Mr. Almodovar at our next meeting. Vermin and garbage control discussions.
Mr. Bondino's not here.
Yeah, I asked him, I let him go. I didn't want to keep him unnecessarily. We're not voting on it tonight. We've kind of beaten that one up pretty well. Any final comments before we go? I don't want to foreclose anyone. I want to thank you guys for being so kind. All right, I have a few that I'd like to raise. First, I sent around an email that detailed where the areas I would like our forensic audit. I want to have a forensic audit, and the areas that I would like the auditor to focus on. I'm going to read these into the record now. There are 8 areas that I would like the auditor to investigate for us. I would like the time frame to be from January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2023. And these are the areas: review all bills, paid date, authorization to pay, reporting to governing body, etc. Among other things, we are interested to know if bills have been paid properly with regard to council approvals, contract terms, etc. Second, review professional services contracts and awards, including all aspects of the award, beginning with the proof of advertising through the award to the vendor. This should further include a review of all bids, the methodology for award, compliance with QPA recommendations, compliance with state and local pay-to-play guidelines, etc. 3, review all bank accounts and internal controls for payments, deposits, withdrawals, and compliance with GAAP and/or any other appropriate and applicable accounting guidelines. Council needs to know if what has been reported to us has integrity, if controls are sufficient, and if there are gaps in the system that make mistakes and/or abuse more likely or difficult to identify. Number 4, all employee and union contracts, memorandums of agreement, and sidebar agreements for compliance with state and local laws, including deferred compensation payments, payment on termination, contract terms, etc. Also review salary ordinances, raises, additional compensation paid to employees, pension and retirement benefits, overtime, and promotions. Number 5, compliance with GAAP and/or other appropriate and applicable accounting guidelines in general, and specifically with respect to all grants, management of grant funds, proper monitoring and reporting of each grant, etc. All grants should be audited for compliance with grant terms. Number 6, usage of COVID funds. Specifically, the council wants to confirm whether COVID funds dispersed to the township were properly allocated and usage complies with federal and state law. 7, review the temporary budget for compliance with state and local law, specifically focusing on revenue and expenditures, accurate reporting to the governing body and the state of New Jersey. And finally, number 8, review our practice of not closing out the last meeting of the year and instead adjourning it to be closed out at a future meeting as we did in 2023 and in any prior years within the stated timeframe for this audit. Those are the areas that I would like the forensic auditor to focus on. And I would like the administration to immediately prepare a resolution and an RFQ so that the council as a body, all 5 of us, can select an auditor to focus on those 8 areas. Happy to discuss with each of you now. Questions, comments, concerns?
I just want to say this, I'll be brief. Thank you for your leadership on this. And I will, if you make a motion, I will definitely second it. And I look forward to hearing what my colleagues have to say.
Councilman, thank you.
Did you get a price on all this? You're
No.
supposed to get a price.
No, I wasn't supposed to get a price. We're not gonna have a price until we put out an RFQ, then we'll know the price.
Well, you had a ballpark in pricing. You were
Well,
gonna
I've been saying, I
investigate
think it's gonna cost a couple $100,000. Yeah,
a couple $100,000.
yeah, it may be less. But I think we need to be prepared to spend $200,000. Absolutely. I think the public deserves to know. I think we absolutely deserve to know. And there have been enough questions raised in each one of those areas, in one way or another.
So you have a lot of things in there. Where did you get that list from?
I generated,
Where did you generate that list from and how was it generated?
so I generated this list. I did it on my own. These are my words. I drafted it. We've spoken about almost all of this in public at one point or another. I have added some additional details, based on conversations that I've had with other folks in other municipalities. I'm not going to, none of them are responsible for drafting this. None of them have guided me in drafting this. But in my due diligence, I'm absolutely going to speak to people about it. I spoke to a member of my family that has experience in this space and wanted to understand what kinds of things are important for me to understand. Here's some of the concerns that I have. How do I get at it? But just to be clear, this is not drafted by anyone other than me. And I do recall when I submitted the resolution to separate the CFO and the BA, who drafted that? That was questioned as if I don't know how to read or write. It was, let me finish. When I drafted the resolution of no support for Mr. Trank, his firm, trying to get him to honor the law, where his firm does not get awarded legal work without a contract. It was questioned whether or not I drafted that. That's actually been questioned publicly in this meeting and in the course of the lawsuit the mayor initiated against us. Again, as if I don't know how to read or write. I'm offended by that. I think I'm pretty good, and I think I've demonstrated my acumen with regard to the command of the English language and insight, particularly with regard to financial matters. So this is my work.
Okay, and I commend you for that.
Thank you.
And again, I'm asking questions because you were going to investigate this and bring it back. That's why I'm questioning it. My other question is, what are the other towns that you talked to that performed this? So I like to know, was it worth the money that was spent before we go out and, obviously we have a list of things that we want to add to the budget. This is another $200,000 to $300,000. And again, so do you have to do all of it? Can you target it? Like what specifically do you want to target? So you don't have to go out and spend a couple $100,000. We may spend less. Those are the that's my question.
So I didn't ask any other town what they spent or if they had a forensic audit. I the due diligence I did was to understand the process and what the auditor is able to do and what we're able to do as council members. The 8 areas that I specified in the email that I sent some time ago, June 27th. Those eight areas are where I'd like the auditor to focus. My high estimate was 200,000. What I was told initially when I asked about just in general, how much is a forensic audit going to cost? I was told it's going to cost about $100,000 to $150,000. So I've been saying 200,000, just in case it's not 100 to 150. But generally speaking, it would take about a year for the auditor to get through that amount of work, assuming that roadblocks are not put up by the administration. And it'll probably cost somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. And let me say this, I have my concerns. This began with, and I pulled on the string long enough to have other concerns, but this began with Mr. Trank's firm being paid, his bill being paid without council approval. That is an issue. As a council, I would expect all 5 of us to have a problem with that. That is our responsibility. And whether approval is sought after the bill is paid or not is irrelevant. The approval for that bill should be sought before that bill is paid. And then the question then becomes, what other bills? And then we had all of these questions that were raised by other departments. Hey, these people didn't get paid, or what this is happening. And once you start pulling on that thread, it, to me, raised enough red flags where I, over a year ago now, said that I wanted to go down, or about a year ago said I wanted to go down this path. Now, in talking about it, there have always been some roadblocks put up, and that's fine. But I've now done, I've done everything that has been asked of me to do. I've captured it in an email. I've discussed it in public on multiple occasions. I sought approval from my council colleagues 2 meetings ago, and each one of us were able to voice our opinion, and 4 of us voiced support for a forensic audit. You were included in that.
Oh, yeah, I will attest to that.
I was then requested to be specific about the areas of focus. And so I put down the areas that I thought were needed. I circulated that amongst my colleagues. I'm now reading that into the record so that we can now vote to have these areas. And maybe there's some modification or some amendment, I don't know, but we can have the debate about it. But have these areas focused on by a forensic auditor of our choosing, have the administration draft the resolution and the RFQ, and we can set up amongst ourselves time to review with the goal of having a selection early fall.
Okay, so here's the question I have for administration, because you talk about, again, I'm not putting up a roadblock. I am being realistic in our situation. So tonight, the administration had on 3 resolutions for support in the finance department that was rejected. We have obviously a position that we're filling that isn't filled yet for retirement that will be amongst us shortly. Okay, so we move forward with this. I get it, but what staff do you have to fulfill all these requests and to work with this forensic auditor? Again, not putting up a roadblock, just being realistic.
Well, if we don't have staff, that points to a management failure, right? If we don't have people in town hall that can handle the finance department day-to-day operations and provide information to an auditor, then we've not hired over a long period of time in a proper fashion. We've not promoted over a long period of time in a proper fashion. We have been asking these folks in town hall to do more with less for far too long. And now we're gonna have to figure out why. I mean, I have genuine, look, and I understand your concerns, and I'm not trying to dismiss them. I recognize that this is going to pose a burden on town hall employees. They're going to have to do be responsive to the auditor and provide some information to that auditor. So the auditor can do their job. I get it. And they're still gonna have to have their regular job. And all of those requirements. My expectation is that we will be diligent in filling the CFO role, that we will, look, and I already said this, I understand Mr. Rabbit, and we had this conversation. I voted against PKF O'Connor Davies for a reason. Mr. Abbott has the authority to hire them anyway, under his emergency powers. So I can't stop that. We can't stop that. That's just the fact of how this town is run, as far as I understand it. But if we don't have the personnel, we just went through the budget process. And as far as I know, and I haven't heard anything from anybody saying they wanted to cut open positions or promotions out of finance or any of those roles. I don't even recall off the top of my head what roles were put in there. But I haven't heard anybody talk about cutting the roles, promotions, open positions in finance.
Okay.
Yes, it's going to be a burden, but I think it's one that we have to do. And I will apologize to the town hall employees in advance. I know you all worked hard. We are doing what we can, even now in this budget process, to help you get additional employees in all of these various departments, you know, where we can. Obviously, we're not going to do everybody, everything that was asked. Or I don't expect that we're going to do everything that was asked, but we're going to do what we can responsibly to help rebuild some of these departments so that the burden is a little bit less.
One last comment.
Sure.
So, and again, not a roadblock, being realistic. Going back to my experience when we had transition from major roles with the BA at the school district, we had a longtime BA that left. And we had new BA and financial person come in. So them, the new department head in itself coming in is pretty much your financial audit. Because they're going to be coming in and they're going to be, and this is where it's important that I advocated for all of us to be in the process to do the interviews as I advocated for with the chief the past couple of days, that we all interview the new position together, because that new person, if seasoned enough and it's the right person, will able to find any inefficiencies, and no disrespect to Mr. Gross, or any antiquated technology or past practices that we may have had. And that will rise right to the top right there. So I just don't see the full need to move forward with this right now. I think you're going to have, that's going to be a natural progression to find all of the things that you mentioned there.
I understand that, Councilwoman. I think the way we got to this moment does make it necessary. So if we can recall, we had 2 years worth of corrective action in the state of New Jersey that was not included on our audit. We had corrective action from the state of New Jersey that was not included on our audit for 2 years in a row. And we were told in both of those years that we had passed with flying colors, had no corrective action, but we did. And then when the auditor was brought into the council meeting on a completely unrelated matter, by the way, but to discuss, because all we had to do was certify that we read that one part, right? Which I'm glad Councilman Williams brought him in, but he was completely unprepared. And in his response, he said that he had only telephonic communication with the administration regarding those corrective actions. That was too much for me, because that should have been in writing, make it a public record, number one, and number two, it should have been on here. But what was not said was who the auditor spoke with in the administration and raised the issue and then did not put it in the audit report. Doesn't matter who it was in this instance.
Yeah, I agree. It should have been there.
It should have been there, and it does not engender trust, right? Then we've got these other issues, and I don't want to go down this whole road. I could replay the last year and a half, but the erosion of trust over the course of time to me, has been so destructive that the only thing that can get it back is an independent third party, and not just for us, but for the public. An independent third party. And I will be, and I've said this privately, I'll say it publicly. If a forensic auditor generates a report and says, you guys, I've never seen anything like this in my life. It is the best run municipal organization I've ever seen in my life. I will be the first to congratulate the administration publicly, celebrate them, and apologize for any feelings that I may have hurt or anyone that I may have offended. I will do that. I do not expect that to be the case based on what I already know and how we got here. But I will, should the auditor come back in that fashion. This is not, and look, we've had a difficult night already. Trust, I think, for local government, if the people don't trust what we say and do, we can't govern. I mean, we went through last year, literally almost every single meeting, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And much of that had to do with trust. Some of it was people didn't trust me. That's fine. I get it. But that's what happens when the public doesn't trust us. And there are reasons for me to raise these questions and engage a third party to answer them for us so that I don't have to take this answer or that answer and people don't have to take mine. But we can look to the professional whose license is on the line, who's been trained to look into these things to give us some responses.
Yeah, I just want to agree. As someone who's been a business management consultant, I believe now is exactly the right time to do this. We are going to have a department where there are a lot of people who may not be able to take up the ball and run with it. We're going to have a new person coming in, and they're going to need all of the support that they can get. As someone who has been thinking about all of the issues that you've raised for a decade prior to my coming on this council, and talking to members of the public who have many of the same concerns that you've just articulated, and thank you for your thorough and your whole presentation. I think now is exactly the time that we need to provide this transparency and accountability in that department to all of the members of the staff of that department and to our public.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Williams, you want to weigh in before we entertain a motion?
I have no comments.
So as I've stated in my email to the mayor, I respectfully, and I'm just going to read it into the record. I respectfully request Mr. Trank and Mr. Abbott prepare a resolution and an RFQ for the council that will allow us to engage such an auditor under our investigatory powers. Mr. Gingaro, are those two separate things? Or can we handle both of those with one motion?
So my understanding is that you want that if there's a 3-2 vote, you would like the legal department to draft a resolution whereby it would essentially state that we would go out for a forensic auditor for the 8, I have 9, but 8 is my understanding, things that you listed in your email. I might have made one of them.
That's all right. I'm going to forward it to you.
But yeah, I was about to say, if you vote that way and forward that to me, I'll have the legal department prepare a resolution for the next council.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
Can you forward that to me as well?
Yep.
I'm going to support to do the resolution, but I want to see the pricing on all this. And I'm gonna try to reach out to another township that's done this to make sure it's money well spent before I vote to go through with it. But
I appreciate that fully. So that is the motion that I'm
I
offering.
second it.
And it's a motion for the legal department to put up a resolution that says that we're gonna go out for an RFQ for those 8 things.
And create the RFQ. Or whoever creates the RFQ. I mentioned Mr. Trink and Mr. Abbott. I don't know who actually is going to craft the RFQ. But whoever in the administration is responsible for that, we want that drafted. We don't want to wait to get that drafted. We want to immediately
I'm not
commence.
sure about, but I will double check and get back to you.
Can I ask a question? What was the rationale for going back to 2018? That's before COVID. That's way before COVID. So I just want to understand your rationale.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I debated that. The first instance where I know something went wrong was 3 years ago. So my initial thought was do 3 years. But then I was like, well, we've had all of these concerns about COVID, so maybe we do 4 years to cover the entire COVID period. But the reason I did 5 was so that we'd have a baseline pre-COVID to kind of, I guess, establish whatever the steady state is, and then we can, move forward from there. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Same.
Yeah. So, that's the rationale. If you want to offer some pushback on that, I'm happy to
For
entertain.
me, this is gonna be driven by cost alone. I have some concerns, but I do believe that with a transition in the finance department, especially the CFO and the assistant CFO, that we're gonna get some immediate information if there are any improprieties that they're not gonna have a choice other than to tell us, because they're gonna have to come in and protect themselves. So I just want to understand the cost, and then maybe we may need to make some adjustments depending on what that cost is and to the budget, because this will be $250,000 perhaps potentially added to this year's budget. And I do, and am very concerned after almost a 6% increase that we maintain a steady cap this year. And we've been in receipt of a budget that objectively accomplishes that. So again, this is going to be driven by cost as far as I'm concerned, not suggesting that I'm not concerned with some of the red flags that we've seen. We've all discussed those ad nauseum. We don't have to go back over them. But again, we have to be responsible stewards of this administration as well as our taxpayer dollars.
Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Castellino,
Yes.
Councilwoman Geber Michael.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Council President Rutherford.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, colleagues.
Chief, I'm saving.
Yes, Mr. Abbott.
We could possibly, I'm thinking this through as I'm speaking, so I'm not really sure how the mechanics of this would work, but maybe have them in the proposal, the respondents do each year for 5 years with a total number. So if you said, well, I'm guessing here, I gotta believe this is gonna be 100,000 a year, $500,000, but maybe and it's a guess, maybe I'm way off base. But let's just, for argument's sake, say it comes to 100,000, you could say, well, we're not gonna spend 500, but we'll spend 300, so we'll do the last 3 years, something like that.
I'm fine with that.
Just giving you some options.
Yeah.
Thinking about the garbage and there wasn't enough options.
Yeah, the bill's adding up.
No, I think that's fine.
Can we
Councilwoman.
be included in the language and how the request is put out, so that, again, the information disclosed about the waste management contract is that how you put out the proposal or the request can dictate the recipient's information and ability. So just so that we don't have this problem again, once we put it out.
The garbage was a little different because we hired, Mr. DeFeo's firm, and he does this all over the state, from Camden to Clifton to here and there. I mean, this is very well versed at it, and he handled the way that was put together. It was done to create more competition, that everybody had to answer every category instead of just answer one, because then you get cherry picking and you actually get more competition, and we did better. The last time we went out on a bid, I understand Suburban was it. They're the only ones that even responded. So this time we had more responses. So that's why that was done that way. I checked on it.
And I understand that, but you only know what you know after that process has been completed. And
I can show you a draft if you want to see a draft. before.
yeah, if you could just show us the
Yeah.
draft before it goes out to make sure we're satisfied with the language, so we don't have to come back and resubmit a bid. that would be helpful. I would like us to get this done, if we're gonna get it done expeditiously, so that we can get
If
past.
you have any thoughts or ideas, you could start, I mean, it's gonna be pretty much a cut and paste of what Mr. Rutherford's asking for, so that
And that's fine with me. I just want us to have an opportunity to weigh in before it is released. So if there are any concerns, we can address those up front so that we don't have to keep going back and forth. When we talk about the erosion of resident trust, you know, obviously we're a township of 50,000 people and we don't talk to everybody. I think that would be impossible. But we do talk to our, you know, set circles that we communicate with often. Some of us feel that there is a tremendous amount of distrust. Others don't have that exchange. So I want to get past that.
Our normal process for stuff like this will be to send it, and any amendments that I'm happy to entertain the draft form, but would like it to be on the agenda. If the draft can go out before the Wednesday when you create the agenda, Madam Clerk, then great. But if the draft cannot meet that deadline, then send it and we will amend it in the meeting.
just be certain not to OPMA, you know.
Absolutely. So do not reply all.
Send it back to me with whatever individual comments.
Much obliged. So we're done with that one, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to have executive session. I want to add to the next agenda, executive session, to discuss two things. Our new auditor contract and the conflict of interest on the garbage contract. And a little bit more broad on the garbage contract, other related matters with regard to propriety of the bid and rebid and rejecting of the bids and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so the auditor contract and the garbage contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how we would do this, and so Mr. Gingaro, you may need to give us some advice. But I am of the mind that I would like to reject all the bids for the garbage contract and start over. Now, I know it's tough, and I know that puts some risk, and I get it. I did not come to this decision lightly, and I'm amazed that it's only 9:27. I mean, it feels like it's midnight.
Not done yet.
We're close. We're close. So I am of the mindset to do that. I don't know time-wise how that should be handled, right? Because if we have this discussion in executive session in 2 weeks, and then come out of that executive session and decide that we want to reject the bids, then it would be another 2 weeks before we could have a resolution rejecting those bids. And then we'd have to reopen. Is that right?
I can't opine on the garbage contract.
We would have.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
believe we would
firm.
need a resolution to schedule executive session for the next council meeting, a special meeting, and then,
Well, we have a meeting Thursday.
and you should have.
No, that's
should-
already been
you
noted.
should have Mr.
You
Buckles.
have 48 hours, right?
I
Sorry,
have a
Chief.
question.
I'm so confused. What's happening?
Well, so Councilwoman was saying we could do the executive session on Thursday,
Yeah.
but there's not enough time to notice it. We need a 48-hour notice.
Right. So to solve that, why can't we go ahead and put the resolution on after executive session? If we are not going to reject, then we pull it or just don't.
I think, how do you feel about that, Mr. Rabbit? I think that's fine. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
So-
fine.
Can you reiterate? I want to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want an executive session so that we can have confidential guidance and direction on that. But we also want to go ahead and put the resolution for the rejection on. If we're not going to reject based on the information that we receive, then we'll either pull it or the administration can pull it. We'll either not vote on it so that it doesn't move forward, or we'll have the administration pull it, whatever is appropriate at that time after that information. But so that we don't delay, we got to get this stuff done.
Councilwoman?
So I like that idea. The only part that I don't know, and I don't think they could answer this evening, is say if we decide to reject it and put it out, do we need on that resolution also the new request? Yeah.
But they do that. They do that.
Oh, they're gonna do
The
that.
administration will do that,
Okay.
not us.
But it doesn't have to be on that resolution on what we want to see.
We never tell them, I mean, they,
an executive
that's right.
Yeah. I know, but if we're rejecting it, all right, well, you could do that.
So council wants a resolution to go into executive session,
Yes,
and then council wants a resolution to
reject the bid.
reject the bid.
Yes,
yes,
that way if it's needed. it'll
Or
be
one or
there.
the other, and that's at the next meeting.
yes.
Okay, so
Do we have to wait that long for the next meeting?
You'd have to have a special meeting.
Special.
Mr. Abbott, what is the time frame that we're working with, or Mr. Gross, if you guys want to, anybody wants to weigh in, is that taking up too much time?
I'm sorry, what was the time frame on what?
So right now, we're contemplating executive session in 2 weeks.
Right.
The 25th.
And if we were to have executive session in 2 weeks and then decide to reject all the bids and put it out to RFQ,
Right.
how does that, because now you're looking at, according to what Mr. Barbosa said tonight, 60 days before we get something back from the DEP, some period of time to then have the bids open for responses, some period of time to review them.
You're talking months.
Probably 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
And
So
do we
2
have
weeks
a-
won't make a difference in 4 to 6 months?
No.
I think you're gonna probably.
No, not because of 2 weeks, but the timeframe
It's 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months.
What happens and what's gonna be our backup plan if our current
Oh,
garbage?
No,
No, let me finish, please. Yeah.
That is the X number of dollar question.
Okay, so can you please, so that we're able to make intelligent decisions moving forward? We do this, and this garbage company is on a month-to-month basis right now, right? And with
On the old.
We have, just to clarify, we negotiated a month-to-month agreement after the expiration of the old, as we go through this process.
with a termination
At some
notice of
point in
what?
time,
What's the termination? What's
it's a
the,
month-to-month
Right, so
until
you have to do 30 days.
until either party cancels.
Right.
so they could give
So
us
they
30
could
days
cancel,
notice?
they could come back and say
They can't
Sep-
cancel tomorrow and then,
September 1.
okay, that's what I'm trying to get to.
September 1.
Okay,
We cancel that agreement, and if you would like us to continue to provide services, this is what it's gonna cost you.
okay. So,
I'm fine with that. I get it.
so
Yeah.
No,
then,
I'm not, but that's the process.
but what would happen if that number was so ridiculous? What do we do if it's outrageous?
The better question is, what do you do if they say we're not gonna pick the garbage up?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. Before we start making all of these
That's
decisions,
outside of our control.
so there is a possibility that us doing this and we could have trash lined up on streets until we
It
could
depends
figure it
how-
out.
Depends how spiteful they wanna be the honest with you, because they're not, they're.
So you're welcome to vote no, Councilwoman.
It doesn't necessarily have to be spite. Maybe they have equipment and they've got other opportunities, and if there's not gonna be an opportunity here, they may redivert that equipment to another.
Councilman, with all due respect, and I appreciate you trying to hurry me up and tell me that I can vote no, but I think it's only fair, but that I know as well as the public knows, what are the consequences?
Councilwoman, I've actually addressed that at least 3 different times in 3 different meetings already. So like, we know that. That is the risk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the risk.
But, okay, and before we make these decisions, I want to make sure the risk is clear.
We
often talk about
made the risk clear.
over and
It's clear. We've discussed that. I personally
But there may
spoken
be
to that
someone who
on
may not
3
have watched those
different,
previous
okay.
meetings, and we're
I
talking
addressed it
to you
earlier
now.
tonight and when I spoke directly with Mr. Abbott as well. So I get it, but I mean, like, I understand your issue. The issue has been addressed. If it's too much risk for you to take, I totally understand. I think the council has to go through that process, and I think we're gonna have to make a vote. The way to do that is not now, because we're not voting right now. The way to do that is to have this executive session, have the information presented. It's been requested. We'll have that executive session and we'll come out of that and we'll take a vote.
I would like to arrange to have Mr. Barbosa at that executive session. I think.
Please do. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think.
Please do. Well, executive session. Yeah. I'm done. Those are my new business, things. I had one other that's not gonna quite work out tonight, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But those are the things that I've had. Does anyone else have anything to add to?
One question.
Yes, ma'am.
So was the resolution to reject the bids going on? Are you gonna take a vote on that? I don't. What was?
Do we need, I offer a motion to add, in addition to the executive session, a resolution to reject all the bids to the garbage contract
Second.
to our next meeting.
Council President, we'll also have to determine if that's a legitimate reason to go into executive session. I don't know that. Mr. Jangaro can't opine on that, so we want to make certain that it is.
All right, I mean, we're gonna have executive session, advertise it that way, unless, expressly told not to. But we're gonna go into executive session anyway, so, because
Excuse me,
the auditor is an issue.
Council President. I can't understand why we couldn't, because if we're gonna strategize for a contract, that's what we're basically gonna do, is strategize to go to.
You're not in contract negotiations.
You have a contract,
Right.
Yeah, I know.
so you don't,
Talking
can't,
about-
it's not an issue. It just needs to determine what's the basis.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this, if we don't discuss it in the executive session, we will discuss it right here in
You may
public.
have to, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're gonna have to, one way or the other. So, and we'll do the best we can to be sensitive to, reputations and all of that kind of stuff, but we're gonna have to have a
About that,
conversation
about
one way or
strategy.
another.
I mean,
I'll leave it to the attorneys.
I strongly suspect that the entity that won the bid Suburban will go to the DCA, so you may get intervention there too. I mean, I think that's gonna be their first step before they do litigation. I think they'll go to the DCA and say, what's the conflict?
Got it, understood. Totally understood. Anything else before we move on?
That could be listed under potential.
Yes.
litigation.
Oh, we have to vote on that.
You do, but yeah,
That's
Oh, you're right. It could be potential litigation. You're right. Thank you, Madam.
yeah.
Thank you. We won't be here all night.
We're
Okay.
voting to go into executive session. That's what we're voting on now.
No,
No,
we're
we're
voting right
actually-
now to add the resolution to reject the bids. Just to have it on on
Okay.
the agenda in
Just-
case you
okay.
need it.
Do we
All
need
right.
to vote on executive session?
We're not going into executive
I'm
session.
not talking about
No,
next
no,
meeting.
week. No,
We already
it's on
did
the
that.
agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, we already did that.
We're only doing now the rejection of the bids.
Correct,
The resolution to reject the bids.
correct.
Should we desire to do that, it's not a guarantee. but
Right.
One on it. So
Council-
I offered the motion, was it seconded?
Yeah.
Second.
Yes. So Councilwoman Castellino,
Yes.
Councilwoman Geber Michael.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Council President Rutherford.
Yes.
Okay. The motion carries.
All right, that's it for me. Anything else, good people,
Yeah,
before we go to ABC?
Yeah, I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
housekeeping issue. I'll just email the chief tomorrow. Yeah.
I see we have a representative from New Jersey Library here tonight. Just wanted to let you know that we did in fact vote on the resolution affecting your particular business, and it received well, I can't remember the number, but it passed.
3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
Huh? 3-1-1, sorry.
3-1-1,
Thank you,
that's right.
Stephen.
3-1-1. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into the ABC hearing.
Okay.
All in favor?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Good night, West Orange. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Summer.
See you on the 25th.